The share of intermodal transport has been growing substantially in the last couple of years and will keep growing in the next couple of years. Ermeva will follow and support that trend by investing in intermodal railcars and additional equipment for the industry. The future of rail freight is driven by digitization. It will bring more safety, more performance. Digitization will help us to improve transport visibility. It will enable us to improve the turnaround time, trigger condition-based maintenance and predictive maintenance. Considering the EU Green Deal targets, rail freight has a card to play and Ermeva will support our industry. With more than 3,000 intermodal railcars in our fleet, we will be well over 5,000 intermodal railcars in the next 3 years. And we'll keep investing into that segment in order to provide safer and more reliable supply chain for our customers.
Urban rail's power transportation and development of a city. Today, ICT is the driving force behind the growth of urban rail transit that offers safer mobility, more efficient operations, and improved services. Huawei is currently the only solution provider in the transportation industry that can both integrate new ICT such as cloud, AI, IoT, big data, ICP, video and GIS technologies, as well as streamlined clouds, pipes, and devices. Huawei is continuously promoting wider ICT application in the industry. Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud solution provides a platform to support metro services. It represents a solid foundation for our innovation while ensuring secure and efficient operations. Centralized management increases resource utilization by 40% and simplifies O&M. As such, we can invest more resources and energy into service innovation, allowing Hupac Metro to achieve the best management quality. We are striving to build a Hupac Metro into a digital benchmark for the industry. The Urban Rail Cloud for Hupac Metro supports production businesses, as well as internal and external services. Each service has specific requirements, for example, needing different levels of resource security. Therefore, implementation can be challenging. During project delivery processes, such as design, verification, and implementation, we held multiple on-site meetings for industry experts to discuss and refine the solutions. We also performed strict testing on a test platform established by Horinger, ensuring stable and compliant services on the cloud platform. The process showcased Huawei's leading technical capabilities in urban rail cloud delivery, positioning the project as a reference point for other such projects in the industry. In 2013, Zhengzhou Metro and Huawei started building the world's first LTE-based urban rail line. Since then, joint efforts in metro digitalization have been made by the two parties. On May 20th, 2019, Zhengzhou Metro opened Line 5 and simultaneously launched the AFC Network Control Center. Based on Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud, the ANCC works in sync with the Zhengzhou LV Chongtong bus cards and all-in-one cards issued by the Ministry of Transport. Passengers enjoy a convenient travel experience by scanning QR codes to enter and exit metro station. At the same time, Huawei's solution provides robust capacity for expansion and upgrade. In the future, Zhengzhou Metro plans on expanding to 21 metro lines with the capacity to serve 18 million passengers and 45 million transactions. Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud solution centrally manages computing, network storage, and security on the NOCC cloud platform, increasing resource utilization by 30%. The solution leverages virtualization technologies to merge multiple physical networks into one. It also reduces the number of devices and facilitates more efficient O&M. The NOCC cloud platform converges service data and provides platform support for smart metro service application. On May 20th, 2019, Shenzhen Metro and Huawei launched the world's first 5G fixed-point video backhaul project. Now, it takes only 150 seconds to download all the train data. Before, it would have taken at least 1 hour. Huawei's solution increases the data transmission rate from 4 megabits per second to 1.5 gigabits per second. The wireless train-to-ground data transfer relies only on resumable transfer and does not require manual intervention. This has expanded data analysis capability and offered infinite possibilities for image analysis. Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud solution integrates cloud, big data, video, 5G, and other ICT to build a secure, efficient, and innovative cloud platform on the multi-rail line network, facilitating the co-construction of smart urban rails. Huawei has carried out joint innovation with leading design institutes and integrators, and set up a digital urban rail ecosystem lab. To date, Huawei has done interconnection verification tests with over 40 integrators in the industry. Huawei has also participated in the formulation of urban rail informatization standards, led by CAMET, and led multiple teams in the standardization of urban rail clouds in China. In the future, Huawei will continue to enable smart urban rail and work with partners to accelerate its development. Smart urban rail, growing with the cloud.
Based in Brussels since 1992, UNIFE is the association representing the European rail supply industry. We effectively promote the interests of companies that design, manufacture, and maintain all aspects of rail transport systems. In industrial facilities across Europe, UNIFE members are involved in a diverse set of activities. From the development and production of trains, metros, trams, and locomotives, as well as components of rolling stock to rail signaling, energy, and infrastructure equipment. The European rail supply industry employs approximately 400,000 individuals across the EU. With absolute sales of €47 billion, we are the global leader for rail equipment. As an innovative industry, investing significantly in research and development and digitalization, and fully involved in the Shift-to-Rail joint undertaking, European rail suppliers have developed some of the most important innovations in the sector, including the European Rail Traffic Management System, driverless metro systems, and the modern very high-speed train. These innovations have reduced travel times and traffic congestion and boosted mobility all over the world in an environmentally friendly way. UNIFE is the platform for the industry and advocates for policies that will help grow rail transport and boost world competitiveness of the European rail supply industry. At an EU level, this means securing funds for rail projects, including research and development, and pushing for better access for European companies globally. Contributing to the effort to create a single European railway area, UNIFE provides its members with a direct channel to the EU Agency for Railways, as well as standardization organizations such as ISO and CEN-CENELEC, in order to simplify the rail system and promote European standards abroad. Furthermore, UNIFE plays an active role in collaborative European rail research, coordinating EU research projects for the development of the next-generation rail system. UNIFE's activities will continue to promote a political, regulatory, and financial framework that will benefit European rail suppliers, their customers, as well as freight forwarders and passengers.
Drag them in, Marie. This is the advantage of having people online. They're very disciplined. It's the people who are physically present who are not disciplined. Too much temptation to chatter and drink coffee. Thanks, Yaz. So those online, terribly sorry, but we are just waiting for one or two stragglers to join us here in the room. In fact, quite a few stragglers. Right. So, having just gone round the mulberry bush a little bit here in Europe, we're going to go slightly further east, and we're going to find ourselves in the Middle East, in fact, for the next two sessions, one of which is going to be about development of freight corridors, and the other one is going to be about high-speed railways, and in order to anticipate or to support regional integration in the Middle Eastern region. Taking us through this next session is somebody who, for many of you, will be an old friend because he's been involved in the railway transport scene for many a long year. This is Professor John Preston, who is the Professor of Railway Transport at the University of Southampton. He has a panel for this first time round, and then we'll come back after the freight one to the high-speed one. John, on the anticipation, or in the anticipation that you can hear me, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I can hear you perfectly clearly, Simon, and I can see that you can see my lips moving. I hope you can hear me too. So, yes, I'm Professor John Preston from the University of Southampton here in the United Kingdom. It's a great pity that I can't attend your meeting today, but hopefully we'll have two lively sessions in any event. So in this first session, which is on the development of freight corridors, we've got 4 speakers, 3 of whom are online, and one of whom will be physically present with you, I believe. So what I would like to do is introduce our first speaker. That's Dr. Seyed Salehi. He's Deputy Minister for Roads and Urban Development and Chairman of the Board and President of Iranian Railways. And I can see that Dr. Salehi is ready to start. So without further ado, I'll pass over to him.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. با سلام و آرزوی سلامتی برای همه شرکت کنندگان در این رویداد مهم که در آستانه 100مین سالگرد اتحادیه بین‌المللی راه آهن‌ها UIC برگزار می شود. در ابتدا مایلم تشکر کنم از فرصتی که برای راه آهن جمهوری اسلامی ایران در این سمپوزیوم اختصاص داده شد تا به عنوان یکی از راه آهن‌های مهم و پیشرو در منطقه خاورمیانه که می‌تواند نقش مهمی را در حمل و نقل بین‌المللی و فعالسازی کریدورهای متصل کننده آسیا و اروپا به ویژه در چشمانداز BC ایفا نماید عنوان کنم. همچنین مایلم 100مین سالگرد تأسیس UIC رو به همه اعضا و به ویژه به مدیران و کارکنان این اتحادیه مهم و تأثیرگذار در صنعت حمل و نقل ریلی تبریک گفته و امیدوارم راه آهن در سالهای پیش رو در جایگاه برترین شیوه حمل و نقل هم در عرصه داخلی و هم در عرصه بین‌المللی قرار گیرد. با توجه به موضوع این قسمت از برنامه و این پنل در مورد توسعه کریدورهای باری با تمرکز بر منطقه خاورمیانه و با عنایت به کمبود وقت مستقیم به اصل موضوع رفته و به تشریح کریدورهای مهم بین‌المللی حمل و نقل ریلی که از ایران می‌گذره و همچنین برنامه‌های توسعه‌ای و چشم‌انداز حمل و نقل بار ریلی در سال‌های آینده در منطقه خاورمیانه بپردازد. با توجه به روند رشد تجارت جهانی و ضرورت توسعه ارتباطات به عنوان ابزار دستیابی به بازارهای مختلف داخلی، منطقه‌ای و جهانی، توسعه و بهره برداری از کریدورهای بین‌المللی منطقه‌ای و فرامنطقه‌ای از جمله کریدورهای اتصالی آسیا و اروپا در اولویت دولت و راه آهن جمهوری اسلامی ایران قرار دارد. همکنون راه آهن ایران به شبکه‌های ریلی همجوار متصل می‌باشد. شبکه ریلی ایران به راه آهن‌های کشورهای CIC از دو نقطه شبکه ریلی ایران به راه آهن‌های کشورهای CIS از دو نقطه، یعنی از مرز سرخس در شمال کشور و مرز اینچه‌برون در شمال کشور، به راه آهن ترکیه از مرز رازی در شمال غرب کشور، به راه آهن پاکستان از مرز میرجاوه در جنوب شرق کشور و به افغانستان از مرز شمسی در شرق کشور متصل است. همچنین شبکه ریلی ایران تا مرز عراق در مرز شلمچه واقع در جنوب غرب کشور ساخته شده است. اتصال ریلی ایران به جمهوری آذربایجان از مرز آستارا در شمال کشور برقرار است و حلقه مفقوده رشت آستارا به طول حدوداً 165 کیلومتر در دست ساخت میباشد که با تکمیل آن در حدود 4 سال آینده تنها حلقه مفقوده کریدور بین‌المللی شمال جنوب ساخته خواهد شد انشاءالله. و بارهای هند از طریق این کریدور به روسیه و فنلاند در شمال اروپا و بالعکس با قطار هم خواهد شد. همکنون حمل بار در این کریدور به صورت ترکیبی صورت می‌گیرد. شبکه ریلی ایران به راه آهن‌های کشورهای CIS از دو نقطه، یعنی از مرز سرخس در شمال کشور و مرز اینچه‌برون در شمال کشور، به راه آهن ترکیه از مرز رازی در شمال غرب
is connected to Turkey's railway in the northwest.
به راه آهن پاکستان از مرز میرجاوه در
It's also connected to Pakistan's railroads via the Mijava border crossing in the southeast. It's also connected to Afghanistan via the Shamti border crossing in the east.
همچنین شبکه ریلی ایران تا مرز عراق در مرز شلمچه واقع در جنوب غرب کشور ساخته شده است.
Furthermore, Iran's railroad has been extended as far as the Iraqi border at the Shalamcha border crossing in the southeast.
اتصال ریلی ایران به جمهوری آذربایجان از مرز آستارا در شمال کشور برقرار است.
Meantime, Iran's railway extension to the Republic of Azerbaijan via the Astra border crossing has been laid out.
به حلقه مفقوده رشت آستارا به طول 165 کیلومتر در دست ساخت می‌باشد.
And Rasht-Astara missing link, which is 165 kilometers long, is under construction.
که با تکمیل آن در 4 سال آینده تنها حلقه مفقوده کریدور بین‌المللی شمال جنوب نیز ساخته خواهد شد.
With the expected completion of the Rasht-Astara connection within 4 years, the only missing link in North-South International Corridor will have been built.
و بارهای هند از طریق این کریدور به روسیه و فنلاند در شمال اروپا و بالعکس با قطار هم خواهد شد.
That will allow for freight rail transport from India to Russia and Finland in Northern Europe and vice versa.
همکنون حمل بار در این کریدور به صورت ترکیبی صورت می‌گیرد.
Freight transport on this corridor is currently carried out in a combined mode.
و اولین محموله کانتینری در ماه ژوئن 2021 از فنلاند به هند در مسیر این کریدور هم گردید.
Recently, the first corridor cargo from Finland destined to India was carried via combined transport mode through this corridor in June 2021.
با عنایت به سیاست جمهوری اسلامی ایران بر گسترش روابط با همسایگان
In the light of the policy of the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran for broadening ties with neighbors,
به ویژه در دولت 13ام
particularly in the 13th government,
همکنون به دنبال راه‌اندازی قطارهای باری برنامه‌ای در مسیر اسلام آباد، تهران، استانبول، ITI هستیم.
we are currently seeking to launch the scheduled freight trains on the Islamabad-Tehran-Istanbul ITI route.
که در آینده عملیات این قطار از سر گرفته خواهد شد.
Well, the project would be, its operation actually, would be resumed in very near future.
تمامی مسائل مربوط به تعرفه‌ها و برنامه زمانی حرکت قطار بین 3 راه آهن واقع در این مسیر قطار نهایی شده.
All issues pertaining to tariffs as well as the timetable for the departure of trains along these railroads have been finalized.
و ما در تلاش هستیم تا این قطار از استانبول به اروپا سر نماید.
And we are making arrangements for this train to continue running from Istanbul to Europe.
با توجه به میزان بار موجود در پاکستان جهت حمل به ترکیه و اروپا، چشم‌انداز بسیار روشنی برای عملیات این کریدور و قطار باری ITI وجود دارد.
Given the freight ready in Pakistan to be transported to Turkey and Europe, there is very bright perspective for this corridor and the ITI cargoes, actually ITI freight train, to become operational.
همچنین همکنون درخواست‌های زیادی برای حمل انواع بارها از جمله محصولات کشاورزی از پاکستان به کشورهای آسیای میانه و روسیه وجود دارد.
Moreover, there are many requests from various freight, let's say various cargoes, including for farm products, to be carried from Pakistan to Central Asian nations and Russia.
و ما امیدواریم در 5 سال آینده قطارهای بادی برنامه‌ای از پاکستان به سمت کشورهای آسیای میانه و روسیه و حتی چین راه اندازی نمایند.
And we do hope that within 5 years, we would have launched the scheduled freight trains from Pakistan to Central Asia and Russia and even China.
برای تقویت روابط با همسایگان
Or for upgrading ties with neighbors,
راهن جمهوری اسلامی ایران در دسامبر 2020 به راهن افغانستان از طریق راهن خاف-هرات متصل شد.
The Islamic Republic of Iran Railways was connected in December 2020 to Afghanistan's railways via the Khaf-Herat Railroad.
این مسیر بخشی از برنامه وسیع دو کشور در توسعه خط راهن است.
It is part of an extensive railroad expansion plan for the two countries,
که می‌تواند تکمیل کننده بخشی از کریدور تمام ریلی چین، قرقیزستان، تاجیکستان، افغانستان، ایران باشد.
which will finally complete the full railway connection between China, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Iran.
چشم‌انداز خوبی پس از برقراری امنیت کامل در کشور افغانستان برای حمل بارها از اروپا به افغانستان از مسیر ترکیه و ایران وجود دارد.
There is a very bright perspective in the near future, and after the full establishment of security in Afghanistan, for freight transport from Europe to Afghanistan crossing Turkey and Iran.
همچنین پروژه ریلی زاهدان چابهار در دست ساخت است.
Furthermore, the Zahedan Chabahar Railroad project is under construction.
و شبکه ریلی راهن ایران را به بندر چابهار یکی از بنادر مهم و تنها بندر اقیانوس کشور متصل می‌سازد.
And it would link the Islamic Republic of Iran railroads to Chabahar port as the only important oceanic port.
که موجب خواهد شد این بندر در آینده نزدیک به عنوان یکی از بنادر تأثیرگذار در حمل و نقل بین‌المللی کالا به ویژه ترانزیت کالا میان کشورهای شبه قاره هند و کشورهای CIS تبدیل شود.
This would make the port an influential one in the international transportation of commodities, particularly transit of commodities between the Indian subcontinent and CIS nations in the near future.
همچنین ما اتصال ریلی با عراق رو با جدیت دنبال می‌کنیم.
We are additionally seriously following up on the rail connection to Iraq.
و اخیراً توافقاتی با راهن عراق داشتیم.
Recently, we have had agreements with the government of Iraq.
شبکه ریلی ما از 2 نقطه به کشور عراق وصل خواهد شد.
Our railroad network will be connected to Iraq at 2 points.
و می‌تواند به کشورهای سوریه و اردن و نهایتاً بنادر دریای مدیترانه متصل شود.
And it can be linked to Syria, Jordan, and finally Mediterranean ports.
از 2 مسیر خرمشهر، شلمچه، بصره و همچنین مسیر کرمانشاه خسروی.
Through 2 separate routes, خرمشهر، شلمچه، بصره, and کرمانشاه خسروی.
نکته‌ای که حائز اهمیت اینه که
The important point is that,
با جدیت باید با دقت به این توجه بشه،
and we need to take particular attention or consideration for that,
این است که
and it is the following.
خاک ایران
Iranian territory
عملاً کوتاه‌ترین مسیر اتصال کشورهای آسیای میانه با آبهای بین‌المللی و اروپا میباشد.
is the shortest route connecting Central Asian nations with high seas in Europe.
و مسیری بسیار خوب
That's a very suitable route
برای ترانزیت میباشد
for transit.
که از امنیت و ایمنی بالایی برخوردار است.
It enjoys a high level of security and safety.
در حال حاضر
Currently,
کریدور قزاقستان، ترکمنستان، ایران، KTI،
the Kazakhstan-Turkmenistan-Iran corridor, KTI,
کریدور آلماتی تهران استانبول
and Almaty-Tehran-Istanbul corridor
برای حمل کالاها از یا به کشورهای CIS، برای حمل کالاها از کشورهای آسیای میانه به ایران و ترکیه و برعکس فعال است.
are operational for transporting goods from and to CIS countries, for transporting goods from Central Asian countries to Iran and Turkey, and vice versa.
و اگرچه بیشتر حمل و نقل بین‌المللی و ترانزیت ریلی ایران از این کریدورها انجام می‌شود،
And although the bulk of international transport in Iran's rail transit is done through these corridors,
ولی در حال حاضر
however,
میزان حمل و نقل ریلی از حد انتظار پایین‌تر است.
well, we have, say, the small share of rail transportation in these corridors.
و ما تلاش می‌کنیم
We are doing our best
تا سهم حمل و نقل ریلی در این کریدورها رو به شکل چشمگیر افزایش بدیم.
to also remarkably increase Iran's contribution in this regard.
در همین راستا
To that effect,
یادداشت تفاهم سه‌جانبه کریدور قزاقستان، ترکمنستان، ایران در 26 نوامبر در اشخابات امضا رسید.
I can refer to the three-way memorandum of understanding signed on November 26 in Ashgabat between Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran,
که محصل پروژه تجاری سازی این کریدور با همکاری سازمان‌های بین‌المللی ESCAP و ECO،
which was the outcome of commercialization of the corridor in cooperation with UNESCAP and ECO.
در اینجا لازم می‌دانم به ارتباط و حمل نقل ریلی با چین اشاره کنم.
Here, I feel obliged to refer to rail connection with China too.
ارتباط ریلی ما با کشور بزرگ چین
Our rail connection with the big country China
و حمل بخشی از بارهای چین به اروپا از طریق ایران برای ما از اهمیت برخوردار است.
and transportation of part of Chinese freight to Europe via Iran is highly significant for us.
همکنون ارتباط ریلی چین با ایران و نیز ارتباط با اروپا از مسیر 2 کریدور فوق الذکر به شکل زیر صورت می‌گیرد.
Currently, China's rail connection to Iran as well as connection to Europe is done through 2 corridors in the aforementioned corridors in the following mode.
یکی مسیر جنوبی از چین به طرف اروپا که از چین وارد قزاقستان شده و پس از عبور از کشورهای ازبکستان، ترکمنستان از مرز سرخس وارد ایران میشه.
One is the southern route extending from China to Europe, which starts from China. And after entering Kazakhstan and crossing Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, it enters Iran before, it enters Iran via Salehi crossing.
و پس از عبور از مرز رازی وارد ترکیه و بعد از اون از مرز کاپیتول وارد بلغارستان در اتحادیه اروپا میشه.
Then it continues to go into Turkey via Razi crossing before crossing Kapula border, crossing into Bulgaria, and then into the European Union.
و مسیر دیگر
The second one
مسیر ریلی جدید قزاقستان، ترکمنستان، ایران است.
is the newly built Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Iran rail route,
که از سال 2014 شناسایی شده
which became operational in 2014
و یک آلترناتیو خوب برای مسیر دیگر جهت اتصال چین به اروپا از مسیر ایران است.
and it offers an alternative route connecting China to Europe via Iran.
این مسیر از طریق شبکه ریلی قزاقستان به کشور چین وصل میشه.
It is linked to China via the Kazakhstan railroad network.
به منظور افزایش حمل نقل ریلی کانتینری از مبدأ چین به ایران
In order to increase container rail transport from China to Iran
و در ادامه ترانزیت به مقصد ترکیه و اروپا
and further transit to Turkey and Europe,
پروتکلی 4 جانبه
a four-party protocol
در سال 2019 بین نمایندگان راه‌آهن‌های قزاقستان، ازبکستان، ترکمنستان، ایران و ترکیه امضا رسید.
was inked in 2019 between the representatives of Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Iran, and Turkey Railways.
در ادامه ترانزیت به مقصد ترکیه و اروپا پروتکلی 5 جانبه در سال 2019 بین نمایندگان راه‌آهن‌های قزاقستان، ازبکستان، ترکمنستان، ایران و ترکیه به امضا رسیده است.
So there were 5 parties involved in this contract agreement.
راه‌آهن جمهوری اسلامی ایران
The Islamic Republic of Iran Railways
امیدوار است در چشم‌انداز سال 2030
hopes that in the 2030 outlook,
به عنوان یکی از مسیرهای اصلی و مطمئن برای حمل کالاهای چین به اروپا از مسیر ایران تبدیل بشه.
it becomes one of the main routes of transporting commodities from China to Europe via Iran.
ما کاملا امیدواریم
We hope very much that
که با برنامه‌ریزی‌های صورت گرفته
with arrangements already made
و با آغاز دولت 13 در ایران
and of course with the coming or arrival of the new government, the 13th government of Iran,
اقداماتی قوی در این حوزه داشته باشیم.
we can take strong steps accordingly.
اقداماتی همچون کاهش زمان توقف قطارهای باری
Such as, measures such as reducing the stopping time of freight trains
با افزایش آماده‌کاری ناوگان کشش
through providing also more standby train trains
و افزایش بهره‌وری سیستم ریلی از طریق نفوذ فناوری
and also enhancing the productivity of the railway network.
همچنین اجرای نمودن تعرفه‌های توافقی
Also implementing aggregate tariffs,
و اعمال تخفیف بر اساس شرایط بازار
applying discounts based on market conditions,
و افزایش سیر واگن‌های ایرانی در کشورهای همسایه
increasing the number of Iranian train cars in neighboring countries.
در جهت افزایش بهره‌وری ریلی گام‌های موثر رو برداریم.
And these are the measures we are going to adopt to enhance Iran's rail efficiency.
راه آهن جمهوری اسلامی ایران
The railways of the Islamic Republic of Iran
تمایل داره نقش تاریخی خودش رو
tends to act or play its historic role
به عنوان یک پل ارتباطی بین قاره‌های اروپا و آسیا
as a bridge between the European and Asian continents.
ایجاد بکنه. و در تلاش هستیم
We are making efforts
تا ضمن تقویت روزافزون تعاملات
to strengthen our interactions and
و
engagements
تشریک مساعی با کلیه دستگاه‌های ذی‌ربط
and join the force with
در
all
امر تجارت
relevant bodies and authorities involved in trade
ظرفیت سازی لازم رو
to build the necessary capacity
در چارچوب یک اقدام ملی
within the framework of a national plan
برای فعالسازی هرچه بیشتر کریدورهای بین‌المللی عبوری از جمهوری اسلامی ایران فراهم آوریم.
for activating international corridors crossing the Islamic Republic of Iran evermore.
متشکرم.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salehi, for making such a compelling case for Iran as the crossroads of international railways. I would now like to move on to our next speaker, who's Dr. Weimin Red, who's Director of the Transport Division, the Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Over to you, Mr. Red.
Thank you very much, John. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, greetings from ESCAP in Bangkok. First, I would like to thank UIC for inviting ESCAP to the International Symposium, The Future of Railway, Making Modal Shift Desirable, and share our experience and views on the development of railway network and freight corridors. Actually, I have prepared 2 slides. May I ask the Secretary kindly project the slides on the screen? I hope everybody can see that. Thank you. So dear participants, ESCAP has engaged with its member countries in development of international railway transport for many years. So one of the encouraging achievements is the development of regional railway network, Trans-Asia Railway Network, which is formally called, and formalized through an intergovernmental agreement on Trans-Asia Railway Network, concluded under the auspices of ESCAP in 2006. The working group established under the agreement has become a key regional platform for addressing persistent challenges and harnessing emerging opportunities in international railway transport by recommending actions on making railway transport more efficient, reliable, and resilient. So thanks to the joint efforts of ESCAP member countries, the network has taken shape with a total length of more than 125 kilometers, serving 28 member states in the Asia-Pacific region. But the economic benefits of the network are also significant. As you may be aware of that, the last decade has seen exponential increase in the container freight trains between China and Europe along various freight corridors of the Trans-Asia Railway Network. Available data reveals growth in freight trains from a mere 17 in 2011 to 12,400 in 2020, an increase of about 730 times over nearly a decade. The increase in freight trains over the past decade clearly demonstrates that transcontinental trains provides a competing alternative to maritime and air transport for shippers and have potential to become an important and reliable component of sustainable interregional transport connectivity, and therefore needs to be promoted further with necessary policy and institutional measures. So given its strong intergovernmental underpinnings, ESCAP is well equipped to play a key coordinating role among a range of stakeholders for safe, secure, and stable operations of container freight trains along the Trans-Asia Railway Network and beyond. So coming specifically to the development of freight corridors with focus on Middle East and adjoining areas. So I'm pleased to join the previous speaker, distinguished Vice Minister from Islamic Republic of Iran, that under a project jointly implemented by ESCAP and Economic Cooperation Organization on commercializing of railway corridor among Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Islamic Republic of Iran, KTI in short. Now, MOU on implementation of KTI freight corridor has been finalized. The MOU provides for the establishment of a permanent working group as coordinating mechanism for enhanced collaboration among the stakeholders to increase the freight along the KTI railway corridor. So the commercial operation along the KTI corridor would provide efficient access to sea for landlocked developing countries of the Central Asia, with potential intermodal linkages to countries in South Asia. So moreover, two countries in the Middle East. Next slide, please. If I can see on the screen. Thank you. Yes, two countries in the Middle East, namely Turkey and Islamic Republic of Iran, are already members of the Trans-Asia Railway Network. And this provides potential for linking railway corridors in the Middle East to connect with wider corridors along the Trans-Asia Railway Network. So this would further deepen the intercontinental reach of the railway transport, supporting modal shift initiatives. So furthermore, our work with countries' international railway transport clearly shows that apart from building and improving the railway infrastructure, issues related to railway border crossing facilitation are crucial and are getting heightened attention from railways of the region. So one of the important issues in this direction is electronic information exchange between the railways and among railways and control agencies for streamlined and efficient completion of regulatory formalities and operational requirements at railway border crossings. So digital exchange of information among stakeholders at the railway border crossings can further reduce delays at borders, thus increasing reliability and punctuality of railway transport along international freight corridors. So however, given the state of digital infrastructure and the related skills of differ from countries along many railway corridors, so we think this would require enhanced cooperation among countries and their development partners to bring railway digital connectivity at common levels to ensure the high operational efficiency along the railway corridors. So while ESCAP's intergovernmental platform could be used to develop an overarching vision for railway transport digitalization, UIC could further support railway digital connectivity along international railway freight corridors by supporting necessary capacity building and related initiatives for the railway managers of the region. To distinguish the delegates, railway has unique strengths that prove its resilience during the pandemic. So railway is also central to enhance sustainability for freight transport, and international railway-based corridors are playing a crucial role in converting the comparative advantage of railway into competitive advantage to support an increase in modal share of railway. So some countries in ESCAP region has already started to build dedicated railway freight corridors to minimize the negative externalities of transport by increasing modal shift to railway. So we can further work with UIC and other interested stakeholders on developing norms and benchmarks for sustainable railway freight corridor to highlight their advantages in reducing emissions, improving transit and transport competitiveness, as well as their ability to enhance access for landlocked developing countries into regional and global markets. So increasing shift towards railway freight would enhance sustainability of transport networks, supporting countries in realizing the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So as indicated, this task will need a wide range of partnership based on mutual interest of stakeholders. So on this note, I would like to share with you that ESCAP will convene its 4th Ministerial Conference on Transport in December this year. So during the preparations for the outcome documents of the conference, namely a new regional action program for sustainable transport development in Asia and the Pacific for the next 5 years, member states have strongly supported prioritizing regional and interregional transport connectivity in the new action program with a focus on railway transport. This would entail enhanced regional and interregional cooperation on further boosting railway transport. So in conclusion, dear colleagues, we reiterate our readiness to leverage ESCAP's intergovernmental platform and work with specialized railway organizations, particularly the UIC, to create synergies and value for all stakeholders to boost modal share of railway in the United Nations decades of action for sustainable development. So I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Mr. Wren. So I'd now like to move to our third speaker, Mr. Alberto Grisone, Director of Hupac Intermodal SA. Alberto, over to you. Is Alberto with us? Well, perhaps then I will...
Yeah, he's here, John, don't worry. He's in the room. He's just arrived.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, thank you for giving me the floor. First of all, I would like to congratulate with the UIC for their great anniversary. In Italy, we used to say another 100 years. So we hope, I don't know if I will be here personally in 100 years to celebrate a 200 years anniversary, but I deeply wish it. We from Hupac, and me personally, over the last 14, 15 years, we elaborate a lot of experiences into the east-west corridors. First of all, intra-European, then up to Russia, then after Ural, and then as I am born to be curious. If you imagine that when I was very young, I was playing piano and then I finished to follow the containers on the train, you need to be very curious. We started also to experiment the Middle Eastern European corridors. First of all, we went through the Balkan, then we experienced also crossing Turkey, crossing the Black Sea, the Caucasus, up to Kazakhstan, up to the Central Asiatic countries like Iran, where we had some experiences. And therefore, we try to summarize here a little bit of some of our ideas, some of our result of what we practice, and we try to provide some suggestions. First of all, we had experience basically in all the possibilities to cross between Europe and Middle East and Central Asia. I will try not to go further beyond up to China, Japan and Korea via the port of Vladivostok in order to remain in the Central Asia. We experienced the solution to go through the White Gauge via Russia and Azerbaijan. We went through a sort of multimodal solution Again, the White Gorge, the Black Sea, and then also Azerbaijan, sometimes going towards Astara, and sometimes going also through the Caspian Sea. And we also enjoy the solution to cross all the Balkan up to Istanbul, Magic City, crossing the Bosphorus, and then crossing all Turkey, crossing again water the Van Lake, which is probably one of the most complicated crossing points towards the Middle East, and then arriving to the borders. And we did it also to go without a Van Lake in this case, and using the new line solution to reach Georgia and Azerbaijan again. First of all, for all these solutions, what we have to say, and this is also part of next slides, but I keep a little bit more on the map so you have a better geographical focus. The first problem for any containers is the kilograms of paper that it is needed to be elaborated. It's unbelievable. And if you imagine that in any border crossing, exchange of trains, exchange of wagons, exchange of system, and so on, there is always, next to the peculiarity, the possibility of what is the most simple happening, a human mistake. Someone can miss a piece of paper, someone can translate or transliterate with some difficulties, because there are needs of a lot of transliterations according to the different alphabet. And this is creating a lot of potential. I went through without knowing how. It's telepathic. And the first point is how to try to simplify the documentation, how to harmonize the documentation, how to harmonize the interpretation among the different type of customs. Because many times we are in front of international agreement, but any customs has the possibility to make his own interpretation. And I am talking also about the European customs, because sometimes it's enough to make a confusion between what we define as transit into it is an import and re-export of the cargo. And believe me that if you find a lovely customs operator that is saying the transit is import and re-export, you start to become a very good customer of this company in Germany which is manufacturing aspirin. And in some cases you need also the tachypyrin, and in some cases you need something more powerful, which is a good bottle of whiskey, or being in Paris, cognac. So that's a little bit one of the problems. The second problem is the harmonization of the rules inside of the railways. Every country in Europe has different situation with his own infrastructure, different length, different weight, different axle weight sometimes. And when you start to go through the various systems, this matter of difficulties is increasing more and more and more. You come also going towards various systems into different interpretation of the type of container units. Someone who apply only for the so-called universal series of ISO. I think that the speaker next to me is much better specialized than me in that as chairman of BIC, and Mr. Guerrini. And normally in Europe we try to go through the ISO certificate, and this is also another kind of very big difficulties, because nobody knows exactly what to say to the customers that for us are the transporter and the logistics provider, but at the end of the day the customers has name like BASF, Bayer, Dow Chemicals, Evonik, Total, Shell, and so on. And believe me, those people, they do not have the patience to start to think about what is the agreement here, what is the situation there, what we need over there, which is the interpretation in the other place. They call me and they say, do you have a viable solution, yes or no? If the answer is yes, you keep your responsibility for what is happening. If the answer is no, we go with another solution. Very simple, very pragmatic. So we need to try to harmonize the situation. We need to try to harmonize the custom solution. We need to try to have a digitalization of paper, or at least to start first to have a very simplified electronic system and electronic lecture of the papers, maybe with 1 or 2 languages only as maximum. And we need to create then the possibility to move from closed boxes into open boxes. And also between the stakeholder of the logistic chain with the railways, we need to move from closed boxes into open boxes, because the railway is a patrimony of everybody of us. We are somehow everybody member of a family of the railway. At the moment that we use the railway as a passenger, just for a regional train, for a long-haul train, we need something for the cargo or whatever, this is something which is patrimony of everybody of us. So we need to be very open and open-minded in using that, and even having for some new possibilities like the mega corridors to the Middle or Far East to be open to cooperate among the various stakeholders. Competition, okay, has to be, but we need also to cooperate to make possible what we want to realize. And electronic lecture of the documents is something where we need a lot of open boxes from the politics, from the state's organization, up to the user, up to the customer of the system. How I go? Before I move along, now I'm trying to move it. Green? Ah, okay, thank you. Last but not least, increase of productivity of the modal transport. I'm trying to go a little bit more into the concrete matters, because it has been presented all the possibilities of the geographical corridors in a very exhaustive way. And as I mentioned briefly before, we have in the railway system still a problem of a lot of closed boxes. A lot of efforts has been done, and a lot of efforts are ongoing to open these boxes, but still we have the problem to start to harmonize the system. Within Europe, we need to come finally to have the realization of these corridors where we have the same structure in length, weight, height, and axle weight of the train for all the countries. Then, when we start to go into the Asiatic territory, we change the system. So if we use the solution with the intermediate 1520 wide gauge, we need to come to a situation where we harmonize as much as we can also the train possibilities between Europe and the 1520, because at this moment the ratio, the usual ratio between a Russian train and a European train is 3 European trains are making 2 Russian trains. And this is also, at the point of interchange of the system, quite a complicated issue to coordinate everything and to avoid cost and to better utilize the existing infrastructure. Because it is easy to say we need new infrastructure, but we first of all need to use well and adequately what we have. Because before to build up a new infrastructure, it takes years. Budgeting, financing, projecting, building, opening, realizing, and put on service. And in all this year, what we do? We stay and we wait? No. We have the master to go to realize and to use adequately the infrastructure. If we go towards the Turkish corridor, then we need to find a good coordination between east of the Bosphorus, west of the Bosphorus, but we need also to find a good solution, together with a colleague in Turkey, to find a reasonable way and idea and time frame how to go through the Bosphorus using also the tunnel, and not only transshipping by truck between one side and the other side through the over traffic jam Bosphorus bridges. Simplify the communication among the railways. Still, with many situations, there is the matter of the telegram among the railways, which is a manual telegram. At least now it is accepted and made by email. In the past was really, a couple of years ago, a real physical telegram that was going among everybody, 5, 6, 7 different railways. Sometimes, despite a number, very complicated number, they lost them. You have to ask someone, please resend it because I have the cargo ready to go. And these are things inexplicable in the time of these kind of instruments. When I started to work, it was 25 years ago, we were still sending the fax for confirming something, and everything was acceptable. Today, nobody is accepting a telegram must be sent between the railways, even if it is an email. So we need to find a simplification. We need to find, as I said, simplification of the customs operation, considering that we are going in pure transit is pure transit, and especially when we are on the train, it's very difficult to imagine the manipulation of what is put in one container, especially if there are seals and correct loading scheme. We need to find the way to reduce the cost of, I mentioned, empty wagon positioning and empty container. This is something which is anymore not really European, as we normally buy full trains. But when we go through very big distance, like crossing the full Turkey up to Kazakhstan, or on the 15-20 territory for 12,000, 15,000 kilometers, there is still very strong and very well organized system with the single wagon management, but sometimes the gap between the movement of empty containers or empty wagon for making the positioning is still quite expensive. We need to find together how to optimize the system and having a benefit to be shared among the stakeholders for the optimization of the system. And we finally have to harmonize the system. And in conclusion, what is really needed is a better cooperation among all the stakeholders. As I said, for moving cargo from Europe to Pakistan, which is something which is concretely possible, or from Europe to Azerbaijan via Turkey, or to Kazakhstan via Turkey, as well as via 1520 or whatever. It is something which is daily possible. We are already doing, but we can much better performing. And all the point that I said by myself, it cannot be Alberto Grisone alone who realize it. It cannot be my company which is realizing that. It cannot be my customer alone. It cannot even be the great UIC, which I remember has been for our situation always very helpful, and I'm happy to underline that here, and cooperative with a lot of competence. But we have to be all together, thinking once again railway as our own patrimony, or quasi a piece of our own family for who is working in the transportation world. I think that I took already enough time, and I thank you very much for the attention, and in case of questions, do not hesitate. I am happy to answer you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Grisone. We will now need to move on to our fourth and final speaker. So I'd like to invite Giordano Bruno Guerrini, who is chairman of the Bureau of International Containers, BIC. Bruno, Giordano, over to you.
Thank you very much, John. I hope you can see and listen to me.
I can hear you clearly.
Very well. So, authorities, respected delegates, UIC direction, I'm very happy being here on your 100th anniversary. Our association is a little bit younger. We are just an octogenary of 88 years, so I hope to match you sometime. Now, when I was presented with a team of the people talking concerning the Middle East, I was a little bit concerned, which could be the contribution the BIC, the Bureau International des Conteneurs et du Transport Intermodal, could deliver to this session. And so I was looking at the map of the Middle East countries, and I was considering which kind of interpretation could give a container operator. Let's say an over-the-top, you know, the big shots of the container operations worldwide, seagoing vessels. They definitely operate rail as a pre-carriage, as a non-carriage, as a post-carriage. So it's an accessory part of the movement by sea. And, well, if you look at the map, you can identify some countries where container operations are susceptible of certain development or more keen to operate on rail. If I look at the list of the countries, Bahrain, Islamic Republic of Iran, Iraq, Israel, Jordan, Kuwait, Lebanon, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Syrian Arab Republic, Turkey, the United Arab Emirates, and Yemen, well, we have a couple of countries really important for railways, and they are significantly Islamic Republic of Iran, Turkey, and United Arab Emirates. Why do I add United Arab Emirates, which was not mentioned so far? Well, there is a specific issue concerning the codes of the containers. Codes of containers are a sign of the economic development of a certain country in terms of usage of containers for carriage, intermodal carriage, domestic carriage, international carriage by sea, by truck, and by rail. And we saw that after the pandemic, something has been happening in the number of codes delivered each year. I give you a figure. There are about 2,000 codes around the world delivered to mark each container running. And they are distributed mainly in Europe, in Asia, and in the Americas. But a significant part is also present in the so-called Middle East area. And there is a development, very interesting, in year 2021 in the Middle East. About 20 more new codes have been requested by operator. What does that mean? It means that there is a significant interest in developing containerized cargo across all modes of transports, one of them being rail and rail freight corridors. Let's come a little bit closer to us when we have been looking at the improvements on the IT. Somebody was going around, some scientists, telling us, hey, why don't you use artificial intelligence in order to make your activities more streamlined? You can make it easier. You can avoid a lot of paperwork. Alberto Grisone has been mentioning some of the occurrences in operations. And, well, all container operators of the world said, well, that's a good idea. We are very well advanced IT-wise, so we can use artificial intelligence. Next slide, please. Digitalization could be used for streamlining container operations? Yeah, provided that we have a nice and accurate standard available. And what container operators has been discovering was that the standards were available, but in a silos way. So each of the big shots had a very keen activity in IT, has been developing and investing a lot of money in order to become a better IT operator, but we never cared about being or having a federated way of joining efforts towards IT, towards artificial intelligence. So practically, they were unable to communicate. And this discovery was a shock, and it led the major container operators towards announcing a digital container association foundation, which was necessary in order to have the same language. Again, what Alberto Grisone has been telling us before, the problem was having at least among operators the same way of communicating towards who? Towards railways. It's interesting having railways having a national approach. I was listening to the European Union representative explaining how railways are in Europe national based, but the same happens for the operators. So operators had first to overcome this gap and having a common way of expressing themselves. Just to give you an idea, when A common need is having a name for a depot or having a name for a terminal. Each container operator had a different name for each owned and operated terminal and depot. Impossible communication among them. Impossible organizing street turns in an accurate way. Impossible saving money. Impossible having a sustainable transport way of doing things. What we have been explaining to the operators was that this fact could be overcome with goodwill and with intention to do that. And we are supporting that by delivering databases for veterans. But the problem is not only tackled by the container operators. This is involving also local hub operators. It's involving rail facility operators. It's involving cargo owners. They have to have a common language and they have to use common standards in order to communicate among them. Just look at the situation of the packing and the bracing of cargo inside of the container. This is a must. If you want to avoid damages to your cargo, damages to the environment, damages to the people working on the container, you have to pack and brace them in an accurate way. And this way has to be the same. It has to be a standard from the warehouse where the container is packed until the point where the container is unpacked. That must be clear. Clear means it must be explained in the same language. Now, there was a United Nations project willing to bring in English a CTU code, so a Container Transport Unit code, capable to explain how cargo has to be packed and braced, irrespective of being a marine container, any kind of unit transported, also a semi-trailer, also a unit which could be carried on board a train. Well, they had to be packed the same way and possibly in a safe way for the environment and for the people working there and for the cargo itself, last but not least. Well, only recently we had an effort in translating that in the 7 major languages, the 6 official languages plus Italian, in order to have a quick guide to that comprehensive CTU code. That's important because by that way we can build up corridors linking Italian-speaking countries to Arabic-speaking countries, or Spanish-speaking countries to French-speaking countries. That's necessary. It's a common effort, and we have to reach that. But again, it's a work which has to be done commonly. Next slide, please. A point which was reached, and somebody mentioned it, I feel ESCAP has been mentioning the usage of ADI. ADI is a good tool, invented in the 70s, which is some 50 years ago. So definitely in these days, the way of communicating has been developing a different way. Alberto has been showing a cell phone as a way to communicate. Still, we have not been reaching the best way of communicating across the board. So we have a possibility of using a kind of digitalized one-stop shop, whereby we take all the sources from there and we deliver everything there. And that's a possible solution, but we have to work together. I know that Europe has been fighting since some years in order to have a federated way of networks capable to communicate each other. But still, it's 5 years they are discussing about that and we don't see the solution. Something has to be done on European side, yes, but also other countries have to join their efforts. And again, the risk of having a silo solution in IT is always present. And this has to be avoided in order to eliminate the kind of bottlenecks I mentioned for the location codes of the terminals and the depots. Finally, the identification of the container. The identification of the container, having a common passport in order to allow the piece of metal weighing 2 tons, 3 tons, 4 tons, 5 tons to pass the customs operations without needing to have a customs operation, but just saying it with a tick the container has been passing. Well, this is stipulated by an ISO convention, which was absorbed by the Istanbul Convention. So we have an ISO standard, ISO 6346, and that has to be used as a way of recognizing the right containers passing across the borders, capable to enter and exit without having the problems Alberto has been explaining. This was typical in the intra-Asian republics. We have been managing, presenting the solutions in Russia during several fairs, and I'm happy to say that this has been improving. The situation is changing nowadays, and I'm happy to learn that the speakers preceding me have been explaining that this is possible. Now let's come to the last slide, whereby I was willing to summary what I said before. The adoption of standards facilitates the drive to digitalization. Container is a typical standardized piece of metal. Let's not talk of containers which are not of metal, but let's say that. They have stipulated weights, stipulated dimensions, length, height, width. They have stipulated twist locks, how to lift them. This is good in order to operate them safely. But also the other standards, the digital standards, have to be standards, really. Then we have to need an instant access to data, which brings efficiency to the supply chain. So a single shop where we take everything. And then we shall have future digitalization based on artificial intelligence, but only then, not now. That's not impossible. Then we can adopt a tool called resource discovery, the way a system can look by himself where to find the information he needs. We as BAC are playing a minor role inside of the activities because we are not providing infrastructures. The investments done in order to provide digitalizations are not so high, but I suggest that national authorities look into that, how Europe has been doing it partially for the Federation of Networks, all other countries. In Middle East, why not? They have to look at it and see and provide something better for building up freight corridors. I feel and I trust that this way of operating hands in hands will encourage shippers, ocean carriers, and rail stakeholders to have a common railway network for the profit and the benefit of everybody, each country, nobody excluded. I thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guerrini. For understandable reasons, our train is running rather late, 20 minutes late or so, and I don't know the threshold for when the performance penalty applies. But what I'm going to do to try and catch up some time is to cut out the discussion session. I have sent all the speakers 4 short questions offline previous to the meeting. And if the speakers want to engage with me on that offline or indeed in the chat function, I'll be happy to do so. But with the organisers' permission, I think it probably is requisite for us to move on to theme 2. But before I do that, I would like to show my appreciation to all the speakers theme 1 in the normal manner. Thank you very much.
Yeah, John, thank you very much indeed for taking us through that little session there related to freight, and indeed it would be very appropriate to skip straight into the next one related to high-speed rail. We have a number of speakers, John, I think, who are online, and we have one here in the room as well. So a very similar approach, John, please, and if we could ask people to try and stick to their allotted time, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you, John. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Simon. So our first speaker, delighted to introduce Mr. Metin Akbaş, who's the acting chairman of the Board General of the Turkish State Railway TCDD. Metin, over to you.
Thank you very much. Distinguished general directors and CEOs and participants, I would like to express my gratitude to begin with on the occasion of this UIC Symposium. So far, I see that there has been a very productive exchange of ideas. Today, I am here to make my humble contributions Yes. I think there was a problem in the sound, so let me begin. Distinguished general directors, CEOs, and participants, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude in being here with yourselves on this UIC Symposium. So far, I see that there has been a very productive exchange of ideas. Today, I am here to make my humble contribution to this intellectual effort organized for the 100th anniversary of the UIC, which provides a basis for sharing ideas and experiences in almost every field of our sector. As the state railways of the Republic of Turkey, we are aware of the importance of regional integration and connectivity. In this context, in a relatively short few years, we have had a lot of experience since we began in 2009. We have learned a lot and continue to do so as our efforts continue. Today, I would like to give you some brief information about the high-speed rail lines and their contribution to our regional integration. Distinguished participants, in today's globalizing world, with recent investments, railways have once again become very much important. I think you can hear me, right? There's no problem. Can you hear me? Yes, I think so. Compared to other transportation modes, railways use less land, emit lower carbon emissions, are more environmentally friendly, and they once again show that they are a key to industrialization, development, and sustainable transportation. As you all know, in today's world, where mobility, speed, and punctuality are very important, the railway sector is growing day by day with its safe, reliable, rapid, and environmentally friendly transportation system. Cities that are connected to each other by high-speed railways become centers of attraction. They contribute to their cultural and economical developments. With that awareness, we have invested significantly in the railway sector of our country since 2003, with the aim of creating steel networks throughout our country. We have created 1,213 kilometers of high speed and 11,590 kilometers of conventional railways. On the other hand, in priority hubs, we are working to transform our lines to electrified and signal trams. Our aim is to have a high standard and high capacity railway infrastructure, and at the moment we have electrified 46% and 50 electrified.
You can hear us, but the sound, I'm afraid, is we've got a bit of a problem with the sound.
Fasla Körfezi'ni Irak üzerinden Kemize ve daha sonra Avrupa'ya kesintisiz bağlamak üzere Irak ile üzerinde çalışmaların devam ettiği Türkiye-Irak doğrudan demiryolu bağlantısı projesi.
So, in order to increase the efficiency of our country in the middle corridor and accelerate the rail travel times, we continue railway projects, and I would like to mention some of them. Çerkezköy-Kapıkule railway project will directly connect our existing high-speed railway network to Europe, primarily through Bulgaria. Ongoing Turkey-Iraq direct railway connection. Can you hear me, by the way? The Iraq connection will connect the Persian Gulf. The ongoing Turkey-Iran second connection will constitute another connection with the Silk Road and the Southern Corridor and connect with China. The Bakü-Tiflis-Kars railway project will be operated with Georgia. And in the Rame region, the Haramain high-speed rail project with an operating speed of 300 kilometers between Mecca, Jeddah, Medina in Saudi Arabia was officially opened in 2018. This project constitutes one of the best examples of connectivity and integration between holy cities, especially during Muslim pilgrimage periods. Again, in Iran, which makes active railway investments in the Rame region, the design construction of double-track electric railways substitute for 160 kilometer per hour speeds and is continuing. As I mentioned before, we continue to work on the connection of our country's network in these lines. The implementation of the railway project envisages to connect the Gulf Cooperation Council member countries and is expected to cost $25 billion US. In our country, we are also working to increase the high-speed train operation. And with a comfortable, fast, and modern travel service, we began in 2009. We have connected 13 provinces, and 43% of our population is able to access them. The high-speed train operations meet expectations, but beyond that, after the lines that we have created, the satisfaction rates increased steadily up to 92%, 92.8% in March 22 and November 2020. The location and accessibility of modern stations, which are one of the most important parts of the high-speed rail system, have also increased expectations. These demands are taken into account, and we continue our efforts to build modern stations to be integrated with urban rail systems. Our plan was to connect 13 metropolitan cities with high-speed trains and rapid trains, and our main lines cutting through the country have become operational, and now they have several operators. With the opening of the Ankara-Eskişehir line, high-speed line in 2009, more has been added to them, and the numbers have increased up till 2014. The share of rail transportation has increased from 8% to 72%. and 66% of the total passengers between Ankara and Istanbul have now are able to use high-speed train. With the completion of the main part of the eastern line of the high-speed train in Turkey, we will add 1.4 million citizens more to this line. Finally, the work on the Konya-Karaman Railway project will be completed in 2023. Distinguished participants, we will have high-speed rail network, which is 2,203 kilometers when that is complete. And it is a pleasure to say that as a part of this effort, we will be able to provide comfortable, proper, high-standard transportation means to our citizens. Next slide, please. Distinguished participants, once again, I would like to express my gratitude in being with yourselves on the occasion of this symposium organized for the Sentinel of the UIC. I hope that the exchange of ideas in these sessions which will be held today will continue to contribute to our sector and make us more environmentally friendly, sustainable, and innovative. Thank you for your interest and patience. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Akbaş, and indeed your translator, for telling us about the very impressive growth of high-speed rail in Turkey. So now what I would like to do is move to our second speaker, Mr. Ibrahim Al-Noaman, who is Harriman High-Speed Railway Operations Director. Ibrahim, over to you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, can you please move to the first slide? Good. The Haramain this presentation will be regarding the Haramain High-Speed Railway, which is the HHR project. Basically, it's connecting Mecca and Medina via Jeddah city and King Abdullah Economic City. 450 kilometers, double line, electrified, high speed. Mecca and Medina cities are the two holy cities for Islam. They are the key location for Muslims. So to support the pilgrims and the visitors, residents of the area as well, it was very essential to provide a fast, comfortable, and transportation mode between these two cities. Especially that the traffic is very high between these two cities in terms of road and aviation. The project was implemented and become the first high-speed railway in the region. It is forecasted to reach 17 million passengers per year by 2030. Next slide, please. 36 passenger trains in the project, and it will be increased with the time as the demand will rise. More than is a commercial operation speed at 300 kilometers per hour. More than 1,000 track is constructed in different type of landscape as mountain and sand dunes. 417 passengers in the train itself, 417 seats distributed between the economy and the business. And also there is a feature of the coupling train or the double train. And also as well, the project contains 5 state-of-art train stations, space areas 2 million square per meter. Also as well, 2 depots. It's located at the end of each, let's say, the line beside Medina and Mecca for heavy and quick rolling stock maintenance. Next slide, please. The railway will remove the need for over 1,200 buses. This is during Hajj season. Hajj season is only 6 to 7 days in the year. So in that period, more than 1,000 buses has been removed. So we can imagine that how many numbers of road traffic that has been reduced during the year. The railway is becoming, or the HHR project is becoming the primary method of transport of residents. And this is a true story. Railway is competing the other mode of transportation, especially in the short and medium routes. In the HHR, the airline companies already started approach the HHR company for reducing the number of airline trips and starting direct their customer to the HHR project through the IT integration and the ticketing system. The HHR is a key enabler for the Kingdom Saudi Arabia 2030 vision. One of the milestones of the initiative of Saudi to 2030 vision is to reach 30 million visitors in Mecca and Medina. And HHR is one of the key enablers for this milestone. 2060, by 2060, the Kingdom will be zero net carbon dioxide emissions. Of course, the railway overall would help in cutting the emission of cars and airplanes. By 2030, 50% of the Kingdom electrical energy will be from renewable sources and sustainable energy. HHR stations have been designed also as well to maximize the available natural light and also grey water utilization for agriculture. Next slide, please. It is overall regarding the design phase, the priority was given in the HHR project. It was studied at that time, minimizing the noise level by constructing the tunnels and also the noise barrier, especially in the urban areas. Also as well, the reduction of the ground point vibration to the minimum. As well, minimizing the waste pollutions, ensuring drainage systems are effective and have zero impact on the local environment as well. As a feature for the HHR project, advanced technology has been utilized and used. The famous ERTMS ETCS level 2 is utilizing in the HHR project. Also as well, the trains, which are the Talgo trains, are constructed by aluminum to be light, and also it will be beneficial for the journey time and the energy efficiency. Also as well in the track side or the infrastructure, the special design of the slab track for reducing the sand accumulation and also for reducing the cost maintenance of the cost in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation there on a Haramain high-speed railway that obviously has some very unusual peak demand characteristics. So thank you, Mr. Al-Noaman. And now we'll move to Mr. García Neill, who I believe is in the audience. Ibon García Neill.
It's okay. Hello. Good afternoon. Well, dear members of UIC, General Director, rail and public transport customers and colleagues, railway operators, thank you for the organization of this such a relevant topic on this symposium. And I am delighted to be here today in order to be able to show and to explain what is our vision for the next decade and what is our solutions and our plans. First slide, please. Yeah. Well, sustainable mobility is one of the greatest challenges facing society today, and it is also the mobility, the transport. The high-capacity transport systems obviously are needed to find this goal. We can say that the pandemic has brought many challenges. One of them has been the financial stress over the public transport. But also it has brought more consciousness and more commitment to act against the climate change. This is obviously the right moment. The railway sector is in the moment to expand during this decade in order to play its role as the most efficient means of transport. During this decade, our vision is that the railway and the public transport will make a very relevant contribution to the cleaner and the healthier environmental targeting. At the same time, we'll have to provide higher levels of comfort, quality, safety to the passengers, and also connectivity to the other means of transport, as we have seen in the previous explanations. CAF today, we are proud to be in the core of the mobility transformation. Our ambition is to contribute with our solutions, with our technology, to push during this decade on the sustainable mobility. I would like to mention some of our solutions that will have to be, and today they are implemented already in the railway and also in the mobility in the cities. That will boost this path to improve the mobility sustainability during the decade. So, solutions towards the green mobility, as for example, technology on zero emissions, on battery propulsion systems, hydrogen, also the signaling and automation solutions. And above all, we would like to continue covering with the known push on digitalization, as we find in our vision that the digital solutions will be continuously developing the way we work. Today, digitalization is in our lives. It's creating new ways of work, new ways of doing our daily tasks, and is also an enabler for this decade to implement on the full solutions for the transport. We are looking at 3 objectives. The first one is to facilitate the work of the operators for the handling of the traffic and the fleet management, and making it as simple as possible. The second aspect is to provide users of means of transport with a comfortable and safe experience. And the third commitment is helping our planet to remain habitable and pleasant for the generations to come. Can we go to the next slide, please? Right. Sorry. Right. This one, yeah. Okay. Population, as we know, is growing. It will be growing nearly 1,000 additional people, population for the end of this decade. the shift onto the cities will be higher in proportion that it is today. So urban traffic will be one of the fundamental vectors to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve the quality of the air that we breathe in our cities. So from one side, cities will be, they are our greatest challenge, but at the same time, the greatest opportunity to achieve higher levels of efficiency and lower emissions in mobility. This will require additional regulation and a global planning, as we have seen today, in order to improve the integration of different means of transport as subways, trams, with buses within the cities, but also with regional and long-distance networks to maximize passenger mobility, aiming to reduce the usage of individual vehicles. Also, the economic development of countries will also require interconnecting regions and cities through high-speed regional and long-distance vehicles, enabling people mobility between cities. Also, the logistics of transporting products and goods to supply the industry and the population. So, I would like to read a little bit on the implementation of the low and zero emissions solutions, to put some examples. Back in 2009, we already put into commercial service the first tram in Spain, in the city of Seville, which was running without a catenary and was managing onboard energy. During all these years, we have moved towards the implementation of this solution in many other places where cities are using this kind of technology today. And recently, I would like to express that one of the largest contracts which we believe is the future, or one of the main vectors for the future of the mobility in the cities and the regional transport will be the battery electric motor units. And the largest contract in Europe recently awarded was in Germany, in this case, for us, with the vision of producing this kind of product and 30 years maintenance for the operation of this kind of product. In the regions where there is still a situation where partially the network is being electrified, but some other parts of the network are still without electrification. And we know that this is a solution that will be implemented in many places, in many regions, while the planning of the future electrification is progressively advancing in the following years. Additionally, we would like to mention that today, through our company, buses company Solaris, we are more than 1,000 full electric buses are running in the European market in this case. And 200 hydrogen buses have been sold since 2014. Hydrogen, as we all know, is something that is a technology that has been, on the media and is in the daily talks of everyone and around the transport and many other infrastructure solutions. We see that this is a solution, but there is a lot of investment, a lot of challenges that have to be overpassed in order to implement this in a broader way. Expansion of this technology will require something that is not there today, which is the production of green hydrogen, that today in the world the capacity to produce is too low, okay, to develop. So, But anyway, we are working on a European development that will be implemented in one of the commuter trains in Spain of hydrogen to prove this technology and to have it properly tested. Is this the green one? Yeah. But also I would like to mention the megatrend and our contribution of the megatrend to digital transformation. We are seeking two objectives here. From one side, we continue working on maximizing the assets value of our customers through improving the availability, improving the reliability and safety of the assets, of the products, of the services, and to reduce the energy consumption and the life cycle cost. This objective seeks to facilitate the management of the transport to the traffic operators, and this is achieved by integrating data, technology, and people. As a result of our accumulated experience in this field, we have created our digital platform, LeadMind, that today is currently being used in more than 30 projects and 20 different countries. I will mention also that on the next slide, our experience in a very harsh environment, which is the regional and long-distance transport in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia with our customer, with SAR. The implementation of this digital solution has been a success, a story of success in all this path. The advanced analytics we deployed in the cloud, the real-time communications, enables the operations to remote support their operators, as we know. We provide also information to be digitalized and to be sent to the control centers. We avoid incidents during service. We enable the supervision of the infrastructure during the service, and we enable recommendations for efficient driving and methods in order to improve the energy consumption. And I would like also to mention that we have in the Middle East our major experience in the last decade, and we expect to be in the development of the next decade as well. It's been very close related to the most challenging territories in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Nevertheless, we have accompanied Saudi Railways Company and the transport authorities to boost the high-speed lines and reducing the distances between the north and east regions of the Kingdom with the capital, Riyadh. We have included also in these two lines from Dammam to Riyadh and from Riyadh to the north up to Kurayat in the border to Jordania. And we have included catering services in the trains, sleeper coaches, enabling better and pleasant travel to the end customer. In the collaboration with SAR, to improve the railway, the digitalization through LeadMind has been a pillar to the maintenance services delivered in the fleet, including remote, real-time and valuable information to the engineering specialists to remotely assist the drivers and the onboard staff, and to ensure safe, punctual and pleasant journey to the passengers. This effort to continuous improving the usage of digital solutions, including geolocation, assets and components, health indicators and recommendations to advance detection of failures, has enabled among other cases of improvement, triplicating the wheel life expectancies in the North Line, reducing the downtime of the units to a minimum, and therefore to achieving the highest levels of availability and services delivered to the passengers. And we maintain our ambition of improving the transport sector with our people and technology to provide simplicity and value to our customers, always with a vision of improving day by day. And our vision is to keep working on the transport technology and digitalization in the next decade, because we know that if we run this path, we will be able to provide a much better future for the railway, and in this way provide higher levels of sustainability on the cities and the regions. So, well, I hope this has given you an insight of CAF's vision of the future, knowing that for the railway people, I think we have a bright future ahead of us. So thank you for the participation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. García Neill, for sharing with us CAF's vision. I would now like to introduce our final speaker in this session. That's Dr. Melody Kamen-Semeni, the Assistant Professor at the School of Railway Engineering at the Iran University of Science and Technology. Melody, over to you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Melody Sameni. I'm an assistant professor at the School of Railway Engineering, Iran University of Science and Technology. My presentation today is about feasibility of having a high-speed railway connection in the Middle East. Can we go to the next slide, please? I would like to start with a brief introduction to the HSR plans in Iran, as the previous speakers also mentioned about the investment and projects they are doing in the region. The major high-speed railway project that is under construction in Iran is between Tehran and Isfahan. Tehran is the capital of the country. Isfahan is a major tourist destination, and also it has some World Heritage sites. It's also an industrial center of the country. The distance between two cities is about is a little bit more than 400 kilometers, and the planned speed for this is 250 kilometers per hour. Unfortunately, we are facing some delays in this project, so I doubt whether it would be inaugurated by 2024, but it's under construction. You can see that there are other plans to connect other cities of the country by HSR. And in the next slide, if these projects are successfully implemented, it will significantly decrease the access time in the country. Here you can see that without HSR, it may take up to 24 hours to reach some cities of the country. But if all these HSR plans are successfully built and operated, we can get to the borders, some of the borders with the Turkey, with Afghanistan, with Iraq, even within 4 hours. So this would have a significant impact into the country and the region. In the next slide, I will compare. At first, I would like to mention that the population of the region is high. For example, the population of Iran and Turkey is 83 and 84 million respectively. Iraq has 40 million. Saudi Arabia has 34 million people. So as you know better, demand of transportation and HSR is significantly affected by population. Moreover, GDP of these countries are high. If we only add the GDP of these 4 countries that I mentioned, it would be over 1.7 billion US dollar. So these are some positive points if we want to consider high-speed railway network. As you can see in the map along the slide, I have compared the air distance between these countries. For instance, from Tehran, it will take a little bit more than 3 hours to reach to Istanbul. It will take a little less than 3 hours to Jeddah. It will take about 1 hour to Baghdad, the capital of Iraq. The HSR will have some tough time for competing with air transportation. In my final slide, I would like to compare the pros and cons of building HSR network in the Middle East region. As I previously mentioned, high population and the GDP of these countries is very positive points for HSR. Moreover, there are cultural and religious ties between these countries. Most of the people living in these countries are Muslims. We have things in common such as pilgrimage. There are demands, good demand for traveling between the countries and the cities of these countries. As the previous speakers mentioned, there were 2 successful construction and building of HSR in the region by Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And HSR is also under construction in Iran. So there are good experiences in the region for building high-speed railway. But if we want to talk about the challenges, as you saw in the previous slide, there is significant distance between the centers of population. There is significant distance between the capitals of these countries and also the big cities. So there would be tough competition with air transportation if HSR is built to connect these countries. Moreover, there are some topographical challenges. There are deserts in this region, there are mountains, which will definitely make building HSR difficult. We have some problems such as instability in the region. Sometimes there are wars or some other conflicts which may affect building such a huge project. And last but not least, many of the countries in the region are oil exporting countries, and this has resulted in rather cheap fuel prices in the region. So as a result, car has a high modal share, and there would be some challenges for HSR in this regard. So to conclude, as I mentioned, building HSR network in the region can be plausible, but there are challenges. As far as I know, there has never been a formal feasibility study conducted for this purpose. So my suggestion is that by the support of the railways of the region and also UIC, a formal feasibility study be conducted to identify whether it is feasible to build such a network between this country or not. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for Dr. Simoni for making up a little bit of time and also for suggesting an idea of a Middle Eastern high-speed rail network feasibility study. Now our train, I'm afraid, is already 20 minutes late, partly because we've had problems at the international boundaries with the translation. But again, with the organisers' permission, I'm going to propose that we dispense with the discussion session, and that I will just make some very brief comments about the two sessions we've had this afternoon in the Middle East. So we've seen how developing freight corridors can connect nations, and how developing high-speed rail networks can connect communities within nations, although there is a challenge there for also introducing an international dimension. I think we've also seen how digital innovation can help the development of both freight corridors and high-speed rail networks in the Middle East. In other words, we've seen some of the themes of the Design a Better Future, the UIC's vision of rail for 2030. We've seen examples of those being applied in the Middle East. And I would like to thank all our speakers this afternoon for bringing those developments to our attention. Thank you very much. And I now propose to end this session here.
Yeah, John, thank you very much indeed for wrapping that up so nicely. Indeed, we are running a little bit late, but unfortunately what we still need to do is to take up a short break, because I'm sure you'd appreciate that, but also for the interpreters wherever they are in this world. But there are a couple in the building here as well who need to take a short break as well, just to sort of save their vocal cords. So we will stop now and reconvene at 4:45. That's 4:45 here in Paris. Please make sure that you are try and be back for 4:45 so we can really get cracking on this final session, please, which will be about Africa. The coffee's outside. Thank you.
The share of intermodal transport has been growing substantially in the last couple of years and will keep growing in the next couple of years. Ermeva will follow and support that trend by investing in intermodal railcars and additional equipment for the industry. The future of rail freight is driven by digitization. It will bring more safety, more performance. Digitization will help us to improve transport visibility. It will enable us to improve the turnaround time, trigger condition-based maintenance and predictive maintenance. Considering the EU Green Deal targets, rail freight has a card to play, and Ermeva will support our industry. With more than 3,000 intermodal railcars in our fleet, we will be well over 5,000 intermodal railcars in the next 3 years. And we'll keep investing into that segment in order to provide safer and more reliable supply chain for our customers.
Urban rails power transportation and development of a city. Today, ICT is the driving force behind the growth of urban rail transit that offers safer mobility, more efficient operations, and improved services. Huawei is currently the only solution provider in the transportation industry that can both integrate new ICT such as cloud, AI, IoT, big data, ICP, video and GIS technologies, as well as streamlined clouds, pipes, and devices. Huawei is continuously promoting wider ICT application in the industry. Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud solution provides a platform to support metro services. It represents a solid foundation for our innovation while ensuring secure and efficient operations. Centralized management increases resource utilization by 40% and simplifies O&M. As such, we can invest more resources and energy into service innovation, allowing Hupac Metro to achieve the best management quality. We are striving to build a Hupac Metro into a digital benchmark for the industry. The Urban Rail Cloud for Hohat Metro supports production businesses, as well as internal and external services. Each service has specific requirements, for example, needing different levels of resource security. Therefore, implementation can be challenging. During project delivery processes, such as design, verification, and implementation, we held multiple on-site meetings for industry experts to discuss and refine the solutions. We also performed strict testing on a test platform established by Horinger, ensuring stable and compliant services on the cloud platform. The process showcased Huawei's leading technical capabilities in urban rail cloud delivery, positioning the project as a reference point for other such projects in the industry. In 2013, Zhengzhou Metro and Huawei started building the world's first LTE-based urban rail line. Since then, joint efforts in metro digitalization have been made by the two parties. On May 20th, 2019, Zhengzhou Metro opened Line 5 and simultaneously launched the AFC Network Control Center. Based on Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud, the ANCC works in sync with the Zhengzhou LV Chongtong bus cards and all-in-one cards issued by the Ministry of Transport. Passengers enjoy a convenient travel experience by scanning QR codes to enter and exit metro station. At the same time, Huawei's solution provides robust capacity for expansion and upgrade. In the future, Zhengzhou Metro plans on expanding to 21 metro lines with the capacity to serve 18 million passengers and 45 million transactions. Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud solution centrally manages computing, network storage, and security on the NOCC cloud platform, increasing resource utilization by 30%. The solution leverages virtualization technologies to merge multiple physical networks into one. It also reduces the number of devices and facilitates more efficient O&M. The NOCC cloud platform converges service data and provides platform support for smart metro service application. On May 20th, 2019, Shenzhen Metro and Huawei launched the world's first 5G fixed-point video backhaul project. Now, it takes only 150 seconds to download all the train data. Before, it would have taken at least 1 hour. Huawei's solution increases the data transmission rate from 4 megabits per second to 1.5 gigabits per second. The wireless train-to-ground data transfer relies only on resumable transfer and does not require manual intervention. This has expanded data analysis capability and offered infinite possibilities for image analysis. Huawei's Urban Rail Cloud solution integrates cloud, big data, video, 5G, and other ICT to build a secure, efficient, and innovative cloud platform on the multi-rail line network, facilitating the co-construction of smart urban rails. Huawei has carried out joint innovation with leading design institutes and integrators, and set up a digital urban rail ecosystem lab. To date, Huawei has done interconnection verification tests with over 40 integrators in the industry. Huawei has also participated in the formulation of urban rail informatization standards, led by CAMET, and led multiple teams in the standardization of urban rail clouds in China. In the future, Huawei will continue to enable smart urban rail and work with partners to accelerate its development. Smart urban rail, growing with the cloud.
Based in Brussels since 1992, UNIFE is the association representing the European rail supply industry. We effectively promote the interests of companies that design, manufacture, and maintain all aspects of rail transport systems. In industrial facilities across Europe, UNIFE members are involved in a diverse set of activities. From the development and production of trains, metros, trams, and locomotives, as well as components of rolling stock to rail signaling, energy, and infrastructure equipment. The European rail supply industry employs approximately 400,000 individuals across the EU. With absolute sales of €47 billion, we are the global leader for rail equipment. As an innovative industry, investing significantly in research and development and digitalization, and fully involved in the shift-to-rail joint undertaking, European rail suppliers have developed some of the most important innovations in the sector, including the European Rail Traffic Management System, driverless metro systems, and the modern very high-speed train. These innovations have reduced travel times and traffic congestion and boosted mobility all over the world in an environmentally friendly way. UNIFE is the platform for the industry and advocates for policies that will help grow rail transport and boost world competitiveness of the European rail supply industry. At an EU level, this means securing funds for rail projects, including research and development, and pushing for better access for European companies globally. Contributing to the effort to create a single European railway area, UNIFE provides its members with a direct channel to the EU Agency for Railways, as well as standardization organizations such as ISO and Sensenelec, in order to simplify the rail system and promote European standards abroad. Furthermore, UNIFE plays an active role in collaborative European rail research, coordinating EU research projects for the development of the next-generation rail system. UNIFE's activities will continue to promote a political, regulatory, and financial framework that will benefit European rail suppliers, their customers, as well as freight forwarders and passengers.
लेकिन ये बस एक कहानी नहीं है। हर मोड़ और हर क्लिक के बाद नए दौर शुरू होंगे। मैं उसका हिस्सा बनना चाहता हूँ।
A world of opportunities where technology is increasing our ability to shape the future every day. And with a strong focus on sustainability, we want to lead the way in our industry by creating smart and sustainable urban environments. Our cities grow, infrastructure is transforming, everything becomes connected. That's why at Konin, we use the power of technology to create value-adding services for sustainable success with our customers.
On meistä kiinni, miten kaupungit kehittyvät.
We are curious. We collaborate. And together, we create the best people flow experience.
Podemos hacer que nuestras ciudades sean lugares más inteligentes y más sostenibles en los que vivir. Haga suyo ese propósito y no estará solo.
More than 60,000 Kone professionals, serving 500,000 customers. Over 4 billion people living in urban areas. One mission: to improve the flow of urban life.
हम मिलकर दुनिया में बदलाव ला सकते हैं। ये है हमारी कहानी।
This is our story.
这是您的故事。
Bienvenue sur SpinUp Stations, l'application intelligente et internationale pour optimiser la performance climatique et financière de votre gare. SpinUp vous permet d'évaluer de façon intégrée les performances sécuritaires, managériales, énergétiques et environnementales de votre gare. Prenez place et bienvenue à bord. Pour débuter votre auto-évaluation, cliquez sur le bouton plus en bas à gauche de l'écran qui permet d'ajouter une nouvelle gare. Entrez le nom de la gare concernée ainsi que son adresse. De quel type de gare s'agit-il? Une gare de bus? De métro? Disons qu'ici, il s'agit d'une gare de train. Une fois votre nouvelle gare introduite, vous pouvez déjà commencer à compléter votre évaluation. Démarrez en répondant au questionnaire général. Ces questions concernent et impactent l'ensemble. Désormais, il s'agit de reconstituer la gare élément par élément.
So we go into the final session now where we're going to focus on Africa. And the first session will be related to pan-European, pan-African, networks from vision to implementation. And the second one will be about digitalization and a number of solutions in the African environment. To take us through this first session, and indeed the second session, but we'll have a little break in between the two, we'll have a quick pause between the two, is Heather Thompson. And Heather Thompson is the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. We'll leave Heather to explain a little more about what that is and also to introduce the speakers that she's got in her session as they come forward, some of whom are online, at least one of whom is in the room, and so we'll come up onto the stage. Wolfgang, not immediately, unless you want to be up here on your own. And also for the second session, Norman, you can stay down there and then come forward when it's your turn to speak. That's just sort of giving a bit of a heads up for Heather in terms of what's happening here in the room. Heather, the floor's yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the prompts. This is the first time I have moderated a session where some people are live and other people are virtual like myself. So it's always a bit of a mystery to know what's happening in the room. Again, a pleasure to be with you here today and lead these two panels on the future of rail in Africa. Obviously, Africa is in the midst of a lot of growth and a lot of change with railways going in throughout the region. And so it will be great to hear from some experts about their vision for the future for railways there. And we'll start our first panel with kind of a broad view of the future of railways in Africa. And then the second panel will focus on digitalization more specifically. Again, my name is Heather Thompson, and I'm the CEO of the Institute for Transportation and Development Policy. And I'm calling in from the breaking hours of the morning here in the San Francisco Bay Area, California, United States of America. ITDP is a nonprofit organization with offices all throughout the world, including in Africa, with a focus on East Africa and North Africa, where we focus on promoting public transportation. We don't do a lot of work on railways, but we do a lot of work on thinking about how railways integrate with the rest of public sustainable transportation, including bus systems, as well as the walking and cycling environment around the stations, which makes intermodal connectivity so much better. We also focus on the burgeoning area of digitalization and how intermodal systems and fare systems can help all of that. So again, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I look forward to learning from the panelists about the future of rail in Africa. I think instead of introducing all of our panelists, and some are online and others are there virtually, I will just introduce each of them as they make their presentations. So we have 4 esteemed experts on the panel today. And let me start by introducing Mr. Mohamed Klieh, who is the Director General of the Moroccan National Railways Office and is also the Chairman of UIC Africa and the UIC Vice Chairman. So with that, Mr. Klieh, over to you, please.
Merci, Madame la Modératrice, chers confrères, chers participants.
It is a great pleasure for me
to be here today to participate in your symposium as a start to the 100th anniversary of the UIC. It has a symbolic value, but it's also a great opportunity for all of us to stop and think back on the role of the UIC over the last 100 years, how it has reinforced its leadership role, its standardization role, its role as a forum for good practice sharing. But it's also an opportunity to think about how the rail can be better positioned faced to the new normal and the paradigm shift. That is necessary when we want to decarbonize the world economy, a challenge that has been accelerated by the pandemic. Monsieur le Président, est-ce que vous m'entendez? Monsieur le Président de l'UIC? Excusez-moi, est-ce que c'est possible de couper le haut-parleur, s'il vous plaît, parce que j'ai l'écho de ma voix et je ne peux pas travailler bien dans ces conditions. On ne vous entend pas très bien parce qu'il y a ma voix qui revient par le biais de vos haut-parleurs. Est-ce que c'est possible de les couper? D'accord, je vous remercie. All right, so we try to take stock of the reality of the African continent. And when it comes to pollution and CO2 emissions, the continent is not a big producer, but it is faced with the impacts of the pollution that is created elsewhere on the globe. The interpreters are very sorry, but it's impossible to work with the echo that's coming back through this feedback loop. I'm very sorry.
La dynamique de l'Afrique et ses facteurs de mobilité. Notre continent ne cesse d'impulser un nouvel élan dans sa transformation, puisant ses fondements de l'agenda de l'Union africaine de 2063, intitulé « L'Afrique que nous voulons », où la mobilité durable est placée au cœur de la nouvelle dynamique africaine en tant que nécessité absolue pour une économie africaine inclusive, durable et décarbonée. Comme étayé par les agrégats présentés, une telle réalité est dictée par les facteurs d'influence incontournables, faisant de l'Afrique le continent de l'avenir au regard du potentiel qu'il présente, une population jeune et en pleine transition, des ressources naturelles abondantes, une urbanisation en expansion et une économie en pleine évolution et transformation. Ce sont là autant de facteurs de changement majeurs qui exigent des schémas intelligents de développement des infrastructures au sein du continent. Par ailleurs, lorsqu'on voit côté existant, et comme vous pouvez le constater à travers les chiffres projetés, il dénote que la compétitivité du continent et son positionnement dans l'échiquier international demeurent en deçà des ambitions. Ceci s'explique, entre autres, par le déficit accumulé en matière de développement des infrastructures de transport, tous modes confondus, estimé par la Banque africaine de développement entre 35 et 47 milliards de dollars par an. Next, please. Alors, en ce qui concerne le ferroviaire, ce mode qui ne peut échapper de sa part à ce constat de sous-investissement en matière de réhabilitation et d'extension Conséquence directe d'une telle situation, un déficit chronique en couverture territoriale, étant donné que 30% des pays africains ne possèdent pas de voies ferrées. Next, please. Je dirais qu'on consacre un déficit chronique en termes de couverture territoriale, étant donné que 30% des pays africains ne possèdent pas de voies ferrées et que le réseau panafricain ne constitue que 7% de réseau mondial pour un continent représentant 16% du globe et abritant près de 17% de la population mondiale, sachant, compte tenu de la dynamique démographique, que le poids de la population africaine à terme est très important dans la population mondiale. Sa faible densité située à 3,4 km par kilomètre carré, conjuguée à une faible productivité, et seulement 14% de réseau ferré africain est à écartement UIC, c'est-à-dire à écartement standard. Mais le continent ne cesse d'assister depuis déjà près d'une décennie à un important développement du système ferroviaire africain. Donc on a des projets qui sont des success stories aujourd'hui. Donc il a intégré depuis 2018 le club de la grande vitesse et de multiples projets d'envergure, de dimension régionale, locale ou continentale, sont soit réalisés, soit planifiés, soit en phase d'étude, appelés à repenser l'espace ferroviaire africain. Et, please, the next, please. Alors, encouragé par cette renaissance et conscient des enjeux futurs, l'UIC Région Afrique a engagé, courant cette année, tout en s'appuyant sur un collège d'experts représentant les parties prenantes concernés, une étude relative à la stratégie de développement du secteur ferroviaire au sein du continent à l'horizon 2063 pour être en phase par rapport à cet agenda de l'Union africaine. Et donc, notre objectif au sein de l'UIC Région Afrique, c'est comment arriver à s'appuyer sur l'expertise de l'UIC et aider à développer une vision de développement du ferroviaire à l'horizon 2063 pour pouvoir positionner le rail comme il se doit et profiter de ces enjeux de transition écologique pour bien donner la vision qu'il faut et arriver, l'enjeu par la suite, à la faire partager, à faire fédérer autour de cette vision. Alors, pourquoi on a voulu partager avec vous les résultats en quelque sorte de cette étude, c'est que nous considérons que les enjeux au niveau du continent africain sont différents par rapport aux enjeux principalement de l'Europe. J'ai suivi avec beaucoup d'intérêt ce matin les différentes présentations et les enjeux aujourd'hui au niveau de l'Europe. L'Europe est suffisamment développée, elle a un réseau ferré développé, c'est vrai ou relativement développé, c'est vrai la problématique aujourd'hui est une problématique de shift modal, comment arriver à l'horizon 2030 au niveau de l'Europe à doubler à l'horizon 2030, principalement pour certains pays, le nombre de passagers et aussi le volume fret, et quelle est la feuille de route, que ce soit en termes, je dirais, de régler un certain nombre de procédures, notamment en termes d'interopérabilité, en termes de problèmes au niveau frontière, mais aussi en termes d'investissement pour atteindre cet objectif qui va dans le sens de ce shift modal, va dans le sens de la décarbonisation de l'économie. Maintenant, par rapport à ça, il y a des fonds de connectivité au niveau de l'Europe, il y a des fonds qui sont prévus pour ça. J'ai entendu parler des milliards d'euros pour atteindre cet objectif. Parler aujourd'hui de shift modal au niveau de continent africain, c'est pas la même problématique parce qu'il y a un retard manifeste en termes d'infrastructure d'une manière générale et en particulier au niveau du ferroviaire. On peut, par rapport à certains pays qui sont avancés d'une manière générale en termes d'infrastructure ou sur les ferroviaires, mais parlons de continent, on a préféré beaucoup plus sensibiliser sur l'intérêt d'avoir cette vision partagée. Et une fois que la vision est là, il vaut mieux aller et aider l'Afrique d'une manière ou d'une autre à aller vers le développement d'une infrastructure décarbonée dès le départ que suivre le chemin qu'a suivi l'Europe, d'aller vers un développement économique carboné pour venir par la suite chercher à le décarboner, parce que le coût de concevoir les choses dès le départ dans une logique de développement durable d'une économie décarbonée coûtera beaucoup moins cher à la communauté, je dirais, mondiale, que si jamais on suit le même chemin qu'ont suivi les gens qui se sont développés bien avant. Et donc, the next slide, please. Donc, cette étude a donné cette vision qui consiste à avoir un maillage territorial, qu'on pouvait le constater avec le doublement de 150 000 lignes, avec une couverture territoriale de 10 km par kilomètre carré, avec 80% de la population desservie, avec toute la partie impact en termes de dynamique économique, en termes de contribution PIB, en termes aussi en termes de création d'emplois, aussi en termes de gains pour la collectivité, aussi en termes de création de capital immatériel. Et là, on voit que ce qui est ciblé, c'est une part de marché en termes de trafic voyageurs de 25%, et une part de marché fret de 35%. Et ce sont les objectifs que se fixe aujourd'hui l'Europe à terme pour pouvoir réaliser ce shift modal. Et donc, l'idée pour l'Afrique, c'est qu'on arrive à implanter cette vision à l'horizon 2063 de manière à ce que dans le développement des différents pays africains, qu'ils s'inscrivent dans cette vision qui permet une certaine interopérabilité, qui permet une intégration inclusive et qui permet d'avoir ce réseau ferré comme épine dorsale, que ce soit pour la mobilité passager, que ce soit pour la mobilité fret. Et donc, allant vers cette neutralité carbone à l'horizon 2050, parce que lorsqu'on raisonne en termes de neutralité, on raisonne au niveau monde, du coup, d'où la nécessité, bien sûr, que les pays africains puissent se prendre en charge pour pouvoir atteindre ces objectifs. Mais je pense que l'Afrique a besoin à ce qu'il doit soutenu, qu'il soit supporté par le reste du monde pour qu'il puisse réussir sa transformation. Et c'est dans ce sens qu'au niveau de l'UIC Région Afrique, nous avons porté cette étude en partenariat avec les parties prenantes, de manière à pouvoir faire fédérer autour de cette étude et arriver jusqu'à la faire adopter par l'Union africaine pour que ça soit cette vision qui doit être déclinée par les uns et les autres. Et bien sûr, on doit compter sur le reste du monde de manière à trouver des montages financiers intelligents pour pouvoir chercher les fonds nécessaires de manière à pouvoir mobiliser ce qu'a la BAD estimé entre 30 et 50 milliards de dollars par an pour pouvoir rattraper le retard d'infrastructures d'une manière générale au niveau de l'Afrique. Voilà, mesdames et messieurs, un aperçu sur cet ambitieux projet de schéma directeur ferroviaire au niveau du continent africain. Et je ne terminerai pas mon intervention sans réitérer mes vives félicitations à l'ensemble de la communauté ferroviaire à l'occasion de cet événement exceptionnel. Et merci pour votre attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clay.
Heather, just to say, terribly sorry, it's Simon here. We had the problem with the interpretation there, but do carry on.
Hopefully we can get that back online. But thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Clay. It was nice to get a broad vision for the region and the future. Let me move on, and I am going to ask everybody to please try and keep time and excuse myself if I interrupt, especially if there's no interpretation. I'm not quite sure if I'm interrupting at a good time, but please excuse me as I try to keep everybody on time. But let's move forward to Mr. Yones Tuitha, who is coming to us from the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Thompson. So first I want to thank AUSC, to thank General Director and AUSC Africa to invite us to this important event, to this symposium. So let me start, but maybe I will switch in French, but in case it's needed, I will continue English, but now I switch to French. Yeah, so next slide, please. Yes, so first of all, tout d'abord, je vais essayer de donner un aperçu général sur le réseau africain des rails, comme a été déjà aussi présenté par Monsieur le Directeur Général de l'ONSF.
As Mr. Riale already did. Here you can see the map of Africa with all the main lines that are projected by 2063. The interpreters apologize, but the echo is there again and they won't be able to continue interpreting.
La traduction en anglais. Non, mais j'entends la traduction en anglais. Bon, mais... Ah, okay.
Test again for English? No.
D'accord, c'est pas un problème. Donc l'objectif de l'agenda 2063, c'est de connecter les pays enclavés aux ports maritimes. Aussi de fournir des interconnexions entre différentes régions et parties de l'Afrique, et établir des routes, parce que l'agenda 2063 est un programme qui contient 14 flagship projects. Parmi ces flagship projects, il y a le chemin de fer transafricain. Donc, et aussi, l'objectif, c'est de relier toutes les capitales politiques et économiques de l'Afrique à travers ce réseau ferroviaire. So, dans l'étude DSS, Detailed Scoping Study, il a été initié en 2014 par la Commission de l'Union africaine qui a donné à Aouda Nepad, l'Agence de développement de l'Union africaine, to lead cette étude. Et en 2006, l'agence de NEPAD elle a été assignée par l'Union africaine. Et en décembre 2018, les termes de référence ont été élaborés par NEPAD et l'appel d'offres a été publié à l'international et un bureau d'études canadien qui a eu l'opportunité de faire cette étude. Donc, l'étude a étudié 75 lignes origine-destination pour un total de...
Eunice, I don't know if you can hear me. We have a problem with the interpretation. Is there any possibility that you could continue in English, please?
Okay.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you. That's very kind.
That's fine. Yeah. If needed, I will switch in French, but I can continue in English. Okay. I said that the study reviewed a total of 75 links comprising origin destination nodes, covering a total of 73,921 kilometers. They consisted on the 10 primary transport arterial corridors, of which 4 corridors run in the longitudinal north-south direction, and 6 corridors run in latitudinal east-west direction. So the railway network in Africa master plan covered the 50-year plan period implemented into 20-year plan periods. Yeah. So next slide, please. This is a summary of the study. Here, I want just to clarify something. When we talk about HSR, high-speed railway network in Africa, it's not really mean that it's a high speed, more than 300 kilometers. It depends on when the project will implemented, and it depends on the country. So it's just a name. This I think it's a mistake on the study, and we will correct it. But the important to talk about the African railway network, and the speed, it depends on the region, and depends on the country. Yes. This is the master plan 2033. So the master plan 2033 comprise of a total of 19 links, which is 25% of total links identified, covering 16,970 kilometers, or 23% of the total route kilometer. This master plan 2033 includes two accelerated pilot flagship projects and 11 pilot projects. The 2 pilot projects is in ERC and SADC region, which are Dar es Salaam, Kigali, and Johannesburg, Gaborone, Windhoek in SADC. The other pilot projects are in all the region, like you see in the map.
Mr. Tweetha, just one more minute, please. And I think the slides need to be advanced.
Can you become to the last slide?
Next slide, please.
Okay, next. Okay. So no, next.
Next slide, please.
All right. Yes. Ici, je vais as you said here, you can see and you can write. But what I want to highlight here is challenges. The challenges are the financing. How to find finance to implement those projects. And other is to standards and norms to have exact and norms, standards, train, electrification, ICT, all those areas that we will want work before the implementation. We have to work on the standardization and other. In Africa, as said before, is one of the high continent that we can invest in. So it's a very high potential to invest in Africa. And the last thing that I want to say is AUDA NEPAD and EUC finalized last year the selection of the PIDA Part 2 projects, which are 55 projects in Africa. This program is one of the one program of Agenda 2063. It's began in 2021 and to 2030, and which most of those railway projects are included on this program. The time is not short, but just an overview of what is done.
Thank you, Mr. Tupa, and apologies that we had some trouble with the interpretation again, and thanks for your flexibility of going back and forth from English to French. But thank you for sharing your vision with a scoping study and the need for a scoping study, and also the concept of introducing beltways across the region. Interesting perspective, and also to know that you have tools available as we move forward on the plan for 2063. So thank you very much. Let me move on to the next speaker, who I believe is there in the audience, and that is Wolfgang Cooper, who is the Secretary General of OTIF, the Intergovernmental Organization for International Carriage by Rail. And if you can come to the stage if you're not already there, and welcome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, good evening here to all
Paris.
Paris.
There's an echo. Maybe can abolish it.
So I will continue.
Yeah, and good morning to you in San Francisco. It's better? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a great honor for me and a pleasure to be here at UIC, and happy birthday to UIC. So let me start with some key facts on OTIF, and it's really only in a nutshell. Oh, that was too early. How to go back? Green one? No, to go back. Aha, okay. Aha, okay, it functions. Thank you. Yeah, let me explain some key facts about OTIF. Yeah, left side you see the organization. We are an intergovernmental organization for international carriage by rail. And we have 50 member states and 1 associate member. We have 3 working languages, French, German, and English, and our headquarters are in Bern, Switzerland. On the right side, it's facts about our convention. Yeah, it's called COTIF 1999 because there was a great change of the convention, and it's important to say that it's the first international transport convention, COTIF. It entered into force in 1893, so it's a little bit older than UIC. So COTIF is applied on 217,000 kilometers of railway lines, and in 2011, the European Union acceded to COTIF. Here you can see a map of our member states, and historically OTIF is stemming from Central Europe, but more and more we are expanding. We have now also a lot of Asian and Eurasian and Middle East countries in our organization, but also 3 African countries. It's North Africa and not complete Africa, but nevertheless we have 3 important African countries as our members. So here I would like to show you a video. I hope it will happen and function. No, that was not the right. Is it possible to show the video?
It's a video, apparently.
So if it's not possible, it's not a problem. I will continue. No, not possible. Okay, it's a pity, but I will continue then. Yeah. So it's not possible to continue. Okay. So then I will explain you a little bit about COTIF and OTIF. Yeah, COTIF, it's our legal framework, and it's international binding law, and it's a bridging concept, and that means we are transferring a lot of European law to non-European countries. It's an approach based on partnership, and we see railways as networks, connected, uniform, and interoperable. So we have three pillars of our work. That is freight passenger contracts, that is transport law, but also dangerous goods law, that is very important, and technical regulations. So more and more we are, as I said, transferring and acting as a bridge between the technical regulations of the European Union to non-EU countries. So what we provide is legal interoperability and technical interoperability. Yeah, why international? What is the importance of international transport? So here you see on this slide the case for international rail freight, but also for intercontinental rail freight, because more and more this Euro-Asian container transport is important, also for our organization. And yeah, it's well known there are these advantages between rail and maritime. Maritime is cheaper but slower, and regarding the aviation, so railways are not so fast, but the aviation sector is very expensive. And what is not mentioned here on this slide is, of course, the sustainability factor. We heard a lot of these advantage of rail, and it's also worth to mention. One important part of OTIF's work is the so-called Luxembourg Rail Protocol. So OTIF, my organization, will be in future the secretariat of a supervisory authority of the Luxembourg Rail Protocol. What does it mean? The Luxembourg Rail Protocol offers important means to finance railway rolling stock by establishing a special register to safeguard the rights of different stakeholders. And so it's really urgent or important that this Luxembourg Rail Protocol will come into effect, because it's not yet in effect, but it has to be signed by one more state. So the main important, or the most important point of this rail protocol is that governments cannot afford not to use this potential, which is brought by this new instrument. Let me now come to the African rail perspective, and according to a study of the African Development Bank from 2015, there are two major reasons for the poor condition of African railway systems. And the first reason is the lack of investment in infrastructure and the absence of supporting institutional framework. And both of these tasks are clearly governmental tasks. And my idea is, at least for the second one, for the institutional framework, that OTIF's legal framework could act as a kind of best practice for international rail transport in Africa. So it's not only important to have the infrastructure, but also the underlying legal framework. Thank you very much for your attention.
So legal, and it's great to know that there's already best practice out there that we can adopt to help move things forward with the OTIF and COTIF convention. So thank you for sharing that information with us. I'd like to move on to the final speaker on our first panel, and that is Mr. Ayman Masoud Abdel Ajim, who is the Director of Risk Assessment Department at the Egyptian National Railways. Apologies if you didn't get that.
No problem. Thank you.
But welcome, and let me turn it over to you.
Okay. Will you share my presentation?
I think it's up now.
No, I can't see anything.
I think we can now see the cover slide of your presentation.
Okay, okay. I will talk from here. Okay, no problem. So in this presentation, we will talk about action plans that Egyptian National Railway take for developing the whole system of ENR. So next slide, please. So the action plan is running on 5 axes for rolling stock, infrastructure, train control, workshop, and human resources. Thank you. Next, please. For rolling stock, we have in field of rolling stock in locomotive, we have new supply for 110 and new locomotive for passenger with GE, and the 50 locomotive for passenger also from BRL. We have also rehabilitation for 81 locomotive for freight train and the 41 locomotive for passenger train, the first for GE and also the second for BRL. We have also upgrade efficiency for 50 Henschel locomotive from BRL. Also, we have new contract for supplying new spare parts for maintenance and repairing our locomotive from GE and the BRL. For passenger coaches, we have new supply for 300 first class and the second class, and also third class air conditioning from TMH. We also have 500 at the third class dynamic ventilation coaches. This is the first time to enter Egypt from TMH. We have also supplying for 100 sleeping and 100 power coaches with CMF. CMF is an Egyptian company belonging to ENR. For we have also have 6 complete train unit for first and second class, also service from Talgo. We have also rehabilitation for 6 complete train unit from Talgo. We also have 1,223 regular coaches which was upgraded by our ENR workshop. We have also a rise efficiency for 90 Spanish air conditioning coaches with ENR workshops. For wagon freight, we have also supply for 375 container deck, 300 dump wagon, 75 grain wagon, 150 tank wagon, 125 box wagon, and 50 cement wagon. This is all number has been already exist and supplied for ENR. Next slide, please. In field of infrastructure, for track, we have new Egyptian private sector has entered the field of renew our track. To addition our old ENR company, Egypt Rail and Air Track. For station, we are now planning to improve 180 station and also elongate a platform for 190 station. For land application, we have already running seven projects for the application of single lines. Thank you. Next slide. For train control, development system, we have implementation for 5 projects, including 86 main tower and the 61 secondary tower with length 971 kilometers. For developing control system, we have ETCSL1 from Alexandria Cairo, Naga Hamadi, in addition to Banha, Seyed, is running now. For in field of level crossing, we have developing civil work for 1,102 level crossing, and now running in developing control system for 1,120 level crossing. Thank you. Next slide. For workshop, we have 3 phases for developing our workshop. For main workshop, the first phase was completing, and we are running now in the second phase. The project sector has put the final situation for the third phase. For sub workshop, we have 20 sub workshop has been completed in the first phase, and we now design for finishing the second phase, which contain 7 sub workshops. Thank you. Next slide. For human resource, also we have put new rules for improving our human resource. For ANR employee, we have new rules for evaluate the performance of all employee. For ANR, determining training courses for each job, annual medication examination for employee, upgrading work schedules to ensure safety for them. For new staff entering this field, we have upgrade list for mental and physical tests, developing scientific circular for all job, practical course in the sector and also in our workshops. For ANR structure, we have new design for developing administrative structure for ANR from the chief to the deep level for ANR. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was great. The Egyptian railways are clearly in the middle of the hub of a very important geography, and it's great to hear that you're making so many updates both to the rolling stock and the infrastructure, as well as the so important human resources that promotes everything else. So thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the second panel, since I see that we are quite behind on time. And if we have time at the end, maybe we can come back to a Q&A for both panels. So I hope that's okay with the organizers that are there.
I was just going to intervene very quickly, Heather, and say humble apologies for the problems we had with the sound and the interpretation earlier on. But I hope we've resolved it now. And yes, do please move on into the next session, which is related to still in the African region. And I think you've got 3 speakers online, and there's 1 here in the room as well. And of course the topic of digitalization, which is very à la mode, as they say. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yep. So yes, the second panel will go into a bit more detail on digitalization, which of course is so important to connect everything. And let me start with our first panelist, who I believe is online with us, and that is Mr. Telehun Sarka, who is the Director General of the Ethio-Djibouti Railway, the EDR Railway. And I hope we have your presentation available so that we can get that up and running for you. Over to you and welcome. Mr. Sarka, there we go.
Good evening, Paris. Do you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we are not that much of time differences. You are lagging only 2 hours. It's like 7:30 here in Ethiopia. And thank you for giving me this chance. This is a very high level and quite educational forum. I apologize. Our system is not as complicated as the European railway system. We are far behind, but we believe with globalization and with UIC bringing all the international railway organizations together, we might be late, but we might also be able to catch the latest technology on digitalization. I will be very brief, and if you assist me with my slides. The Ethio-Djibouti Railway is a very young railway. We are very young. We are still emerging. It is only 2 years since we became member of UIC also. But I hope UIC didn't reject us. Rather, UIC is really very much supportive. We are learning quite a lot and we are trying to catch up. So in my presentation, I will focus on the operational side because we are still, taking over the infrastructure. It's a medium speed infrastructure. Our rolling stocks can run in the speed of 120 kilometers per hour for passenger and in the operational speed of 80 kilometers for freight. And we are operating almost 80% freight operation. And we are also working with passenger transport between the two countries, Ethiopia and Djibouti. The interesting thing about EDR is we are bringing together the two territories, the two countries together. And the EDR is an establishment established by the shareholding of Ethiopia and Djibouti. So like Mr. Yunus spoke in African vision, you can see the east-west line is already started from Djibouti to Dakar. So with the help of financing, if financing is available, we believe that the Ethio-Djibouti line is the starting point to the vision, the 4x6 vision, as Mr. Yunus presented very well, which goes from Djibouti east side and Dakar to west side. So when we speak of digitalization, we have three aspects. Number one is the operational side. Number two is the internal business process. And number three is the customer side. Today I am speaking briefly only on the operational side. That the next slide maybe Heather can help with my next slide. Yeah. This is the this is the digital screen. We have the central train supervising screen at one center, at the command center. And this manages for us the train dispatching, the automatic train dispatching, and the timetabling, and also the on-time location of where our trains are. So this looks like technical, but I hope every one of the participants can understand this one. So this is one version of the command and the control center of our medium speed, passenger and the freight operation. We have 16 stations in the Ethiopian side and the 3 stations in Djibouti side. So this command and the control center can really, locate where the trains at the real time, are, present. Next slide. So this is the digital screen is doing 3 things. Number one is the signaling system. Number 2 is the switch system. And the number 3 is the axle counter system. So these 3 systems are coming to the digital screen, and the dispatcher, the computer automatic dispatcher can know how to let the coming train, or if there are meeting trains, to give priority to other train and to the following train. So these 3 things are coming together in the digital control system. Next slide. So this is quite technical, but as you just click on it, it shows you how the signaling system and the switch are coming together in the interlocking system. They are automatically, giving priority to the dispatching system based on the command of the dispatcher in the control center. So I cannot go into detail. So you just touch and it will go to the next slide. Okay, this is our problem. Maybe UIC and all the participants or the financiers, they can think of if they want to come to EDR and work together. Now we have uncontrolled and undigitalized level crossing. In our 752-kilometer line, we have almost level crossings in every 2 kilometers. So you can imagine we have almost about 350 level crossings which need to be digitally controlled. So this is the area of, it's very interesting for investors and financiers really to jump into it. We can make even a business together from this thing because we want to digitalize it. We want to automatically monitor it. We want to, this system come to our, part of our central command system so that we can really also save the accidents now happening, many times on daily basis. I think this is my small presentation. Thank you for giving me this chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sarka. That was really informative. Such an important region with a growing railway, and it sounds like a lot of opportunities to leapfrog with digitalization and modernization. Great to hear about the interlocking digital systems and a very practical problem that's looking for a solution by digitalization of the level crossings. I'm sure that would bring a lot more speed to the system, and with that, cost effectiveness, and sounds like a good investment. Hopefully some folks in the audience can follow up and help make that happen. Let me move on to our next panelist, who is coming to us also virtually, Miss Samia Ben Hamida, who is the Director of Planification and Controlling Departments at SNCFT, which is the National Society for Tunisian Railways, said in English, of course. Welcome, and over to you. Thanks so much for being here with us today.
Merci.
Thank you.
Bonsoir tout le monde.
Good evening, everyone. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today to participate in this symposium on the future of railways as a launching event for the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the UIC. This is a great opportunity for me and for the whole of SNCFT to join me in congratulating you. So congratulations to the whole team for this wonderful anniversary. Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. The one before that, the one before that. The previous slide with, well, doesn't matter. All right, I will be presenting three main parts: multimodal transportation, renewable energies, and digitalizations. That will be the three things that I will be talking about. And we're starting with intermodality. In this context, let me say a few words about the adaptation of the central station in Tunis that has to be adapted to integrate with the local transportation network to improve interoperability and to also modernize the ticketing system to be able to have through ticketing. Next slide. Since 2002, SNCFT has made it possible to have a combined service for rail and road in the south of the country for Djerba, Tataouine, for example, using the main rail axis between Tunis and Gabes. SNCFT is going to develop new partnership programs and to update its conventions to offer better flexibility to our clients and to make it less costly for them as well. Next slide. Right, this brings me to my second topic, renewable energies. A study is being carried out to find an alternative power solution for rail activities. And this solution has to take into account environmental externalities. This is a pilot project so far, but it can be easily duplicated elsewhere in North Africa and in sub-Saharan Africa, thanks to favorable climate conditions. When I say favorable, I mean for a number of alternative solutions, such as green hydrogen, for example. Next slide. And my third topic, since 2008, SNCFT has broadened its optic fiber network. So far, we have more than 1,000 kilometers of our network where optic fiber is available. That's about 1/2 of our whole network. And thanks to this network, we also have an information system via text messages where you can have instant localization of your train, and the system can send you a text message if there's an emergency, for example. We also have a digital library that's available on board that gives you the whole schedule of trains in your area. Thank you very much for your attention. And I would like to invite you to join us for the second digital summit of UIC Africa that will be held in Tunis next year. We would love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Samia. That was very informative on the growth of the railways in Tunisia, and to hear about your progress, both with modernizing the ticketing system and having much more information systems online with the growth of your digitalization system. Also interesting to hear about the pilot project looking at renewable energy that can maybe be replicated elsewhere. So thank you so much for offering us these ideas and suggestions for others. Let me next turn to our third panelist, who I believe is also joining us virtually, and that is Ms. Masela Nalapo, who is the CEO of ARIA, which is the African Railway Industry Association. Ms. Masela, are you with us? Yes, there you are. Welcome. Over to you.
Okay, no, good evening to all the participants. Can I have my presentation, please? In the meantime, my name is Masela Nhlapo. I am the CEO of the African Rail Industry Association. We are an industry body. We represent some of the multinationals, OEMs in the world. And with South Africa having more than 70% of the continental infrastructure, apparently somebody told me that our infrastructure is, in terms of kilometers, is almost that of Germany. And if there's anyone that can correct me here, I gladly take the correction. We are also an export council, and our mandate is to create capacity in the local industry so that we are able to manufacture for the continent and able to supply globally. Not sure, okay. With regards to my presentation, thank you very much for UIC to invite me to form part of this prestigious event. When we talk about digitalization, my question was then, if digitalization is a solution, what will be the problem? Where do we find ourselves as Africans? And where we find ourselves as Africans is precisely where we find Africa growing within the railway sector. I'm going to be looking at factors supporting the digitalization, relationship between literacy and digitalization, African railways and digitalization as well. I mean, the factors that we are looking at is, I've identified few about basic needs of a society. That means the true value of technology and infrastructure is delivered through a population's ability to take advantage of it. Now, this talks to some of the African Union goals that the economic development of Africa must rely on the potential that is offered by Africans, and particularly its women and youth. And this is where we think that the basic need of what we need as a society will come and be implemented by Africans through partnerships with some of the members of the UIC. There needs to be a presence of startups where startups will bring about innovation, particularly responding to the technical needs of a society, particularly in rail. The technical infrastructure must be there through the involvement of government and private sector. We must also be able to adopt technology. If we are not able to adopt technology, then the technology lies around and it becomes ineffective for any society to use. And hence it's important that when we create solutions for the continent, for Africa, it must be created with the African environment in mind, so that as to ensure that we are able to adopt this, the technology, and be able to use it. The human capital remains a critical factor that to utilize and create advanced digital services is determined partly by the skill level within the workforce. In our instance as Africans, we may not necessarily be on the same par as the Europeans or British, the UK, in terms of technology. But then there is a need for both the Africans and the Europeans and many other members of UIC to work together to get Africans and working with Africans to come to a point where we are able to have digital factors actually supporting our vision as a continent. The ease of doing business, I think, is something that most multinationals would find very, very important, that how easy it is to do business in South Africa, Southern Africa, East, West Africa. That is key. So for any organization that will be working with Africans from the African perspective, I think the environment for doing business in Africa must be such that it's attractive. And as private sector working with government, we are working to ensure that the environment for business is good, particularly in South Africa, and looking at the region as well, where government for the first time in many years of the South African rail will be now moving into third-party access. I think in some areas may be called open access. Now, this is the first time that this opportunity is open, and it's an invitation to the market that here's a market that has not been available before, but we're inviting those that are manufacturers, those that are operators, that there's a new opportunity in South Africa and also the region as well. Business investment, I've covered it. The country literacy, digital and country literacy, they talk to each other. So for instance, the literacy from the African perspective South Africa goes on top, Equatorial Guinea, Seychelles. And looking at the GDP, we have South Africa featuring there again, and then the country's digital readiness. You have the GDP, we have Nigeria and South Africa, and then on the digital readiness as well, you have Nigeria and South Africa again. So when we look, if Africa is ready, these are some of the components that we should be looking at. And if this is the case, how do we then improve? How do we learn from where other countries are and to improve Africa as the new market for the railways? There's a gentleman earlier on, he talked from OTIF, he talked about the Luxembourg Rail Protocol to the Cape Town Convention. To us, the Luxembourg Rail Protocol, it's merely a tool to unlock many, many opportunities on the continent. Now, with where we are with third-party access, we need rolling stock. We know that African governments do not have money. We need funding. Funding that is based on the international risk assessment may not necessarily be good for Africa, or maybe may not be available because the security lacks. Now, funding then, the lack of funding now brings about the change in private law. As an organization, we have formally adopted the Luxembourg Rail Protocol as a tool to transform our sector. We know that in South Africa today, the president of South Africa has signed the minute of the Luxembourg Rail Protocol. We're waiting for the Minister of Transport to deposit the minute in Rome soon. We're hoping that will be done in December, but it looks like it has been postponed to next year. But now, how does that bring about the answering our first question as to the rolling stock? And also responding to funding. Any funder would want to have their properties easily identifiable. This is where the unique identifying comes into importance. Then the digitalization is actually a byproduct of everything that needs to take place, demand for rolling stock, demand for funding. Funding, then we need to have a protocol in place, identifier. Then you are able to solve so many problems and challenges that we have as a continent. Now, the value of a digital literate nation is immediately reflected in the strong correlation that leading nations show against other indicators, such as the gross domestic product. Now, I like to use this opportunity because it's a once-off, I think, that as South Africa, as the region and the continent, business is open. There are massive opportunities, and we would like to actively participate within UIC, because having North Africa only, I think that it is better to get the entire continent involved so that we fast track this digital transformation that needs to take place in Africa. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Masala. That was an interesting perspective and connecting the dots between some of the softer factors that are so important, as well as the technology and the infrastructure factors. But really important to think about digitalization as a byproduct of getting all of the other things in place, especially the protocols like the Luxembourg Rail Protocol that can be a tool for all the interoperability. And that really digital literacy is a huge factor and needs to be fast-tracked. And it sounds like some of these tools and ideas are a way to lead to that. So thank you for your perspective on connecting the dots on those things. Let me turn to our last speaker, who I believe is there in the audience. And that is Mr. Norman Fish, who is the Marketing Director of the Transport Sector at the Enterprise Business Group of Huawei. Let me welcome you to the stage if you're not already there.
Thank you, Heather, for introducing me so kindly. And thank you very much, Mesela, for your very inspiring speech on the digitalization. It was very, very interesting. And I do hope, Heather, that we might have some minutes left for a question and answer session. My hope is also going to you. My name is Norman Frisch. I'm working for Biotechnologies, and we are in the railway business since 1996. We are supplying into railways on different technologies. What I want to talk to you about today is how, for the African continent, we are taking a slightly different approach on technologies, on digitalization, as we do see here in Europe. And I do believe, out of my heart, this is very important. We have different timelines in Europe. We have different situations here in Europe than we do have on the African continent. And from our projects we see there is that an approach of involving technologies which are already there and providing technologies which are readily accessible are something which are much needed there compared to technologies we see here, where we are moving and evolving into 5G-based technologies, which are the ones we will be going here in Europe. So there are different approaches. On this slide here, I show you how the evolution on technologies is different between the physical world, where we see metal tracks, where we see different evolution paths there, and on the right-hand side, how the information technology is moving, how we are moving from a communication-based technology into an intelligence technology. And that is very important. I worked for over 20 years now in the railway business, and I grew up on that communication-based technologies, where we had specific systems like the GSMR system or Tetra system, which did one job. And it did it very well and was perfectly fine for railways to work with for many, many years. Now we are much more looking into how we can make use of multiple technologies and still feed that information into my railway operation. And this is all to do with situational awareness. We want to be sure that we not only understand what is happening with the driver, but at the same time we want to know where's the locomotive, what's happening on the platform, how many passengers are going in and out of my railway station. This is all to do a lot with railway operation, but not very much to do with GSMR. So we have different technologies doing different jobs, and they do it greatly, but we are kind of missing the bit which puts all of these different pools and pillars of data we have together into one. And that is exactly where we're here on the right-hand side on the intelligence era. So where we're pulling these systems together. And now let me move back again a little bit to how this might look different in Africa than it will be looking here in Europe. So this slide depicts a little bit on how we can make a system with a connection layer where we have the information flowing in through, let's call it GSMR, let's call it 5G networks, other networks. It could be IoT networks, information about passengers, how many tickets being bought in, where are my location, where are the trains located, or who is talking on the trains. All this information flows in on the connection layer on the very bottom of that slide. In the middle, we got the platform layer. So this is a little bit of information which pulls in information and helps of sharing the information. And we all see, and today we have witnessed how important it is about situational awareness. We very well understood today that a complex system of translators and different locations of microphones and loudspeakers can create a lot of confusion with translation services. If we would have had a situation where we had an upper layer, an intelligence layer, a technology which would be capable of muting microphones, maybe the microphones of the speaker, and allowing the translators to actually freely speak. If you would have this of intelligence on an upper layer, we wouldn't have discovered such kind of issues. Some simple things can be solved, and it takes time, and it took time also today. This type of technology, helping to collect data from the different pillars, will be putting a railway operational organization into a position to have full situational awareness, to know what is happening and to help them and advise them what to do next. And this is extremely important on these kind of items. This might now look very, well, a lot of technologies for railways, which we want to see cargo moving from A to B. But we have seen today some presentations how important it is for the African continent, for the east-west connectivity, for connecting seaports to dry ports. It's extremely important to have these railways actually communicating to different entities. Railways need to make sure that the hinterland connectivity to ports are working smoothly, not smoothless. So my platform layer will exactly allow that. And this can be achieved through different technologies, allowing me then to feed that information, to predict information, to know where my trains are and where they will be or what is going to happen. I need to move on. So initially I wanted to show that slide first, but for, let's say, logistical problems, we have it now. So these are some of the technologies which a communication layer is being built on. And when you listen to all the presentations today, many of these projects you have seen, whether they are in Turkey, whether they are in Germany or Tunisia, many of these projects are actually already using these kind of technologies from our companies. From our company. 5G we see very much here of course, for the FRMCS model. But I do get the feeling that for Africa, 5G is a little bit too far away because we need network connectivity. We need to have these projects now. They need to move from an analog system now to something digital. So there will be a multitude of different technologies, and the European approach was saying moving away from a patchwork network into a whole nation network. I think this will be different in Africa. We will have a patchwork network, but this doesn't mean it's a patchy information, because the previous slide actually showed you, I hope I can go back, that even if I have a patchwork network on the connecting layer, I can still feed in this information into my operational control and command center. So this is very important to understand, and I believe for Africa, this will be exactly the approach, that in some regions, in some countries, we will have dry ports or maybe also a seaport which runs on a different wireless technology, and we will not be able to impose to move them to another technology. But we will be able, through the platform layer and the intelligence layer, to still share the information which is necessary to move my cargo from A to B in a smooth way. If you build on these ones, you can actually go one step further. I need to look how much time I still have, one more minute. This would be, of course, this is a very sexy depiction of what an operational command center could actually be, where we're predicting constellations and predicting situational awareness, what is going to happen, where it is going to happen, and could we put staff already into this there. If we boil that down, it also means that at a very good point, I can identify where are my containers, where will be a lack of containers if my trains come through to the seaport in the right time. So the importance of a platform and an intelligence layer to pull information together from different data pillars are extremely important. And we see many of these projects already happening in Africa, where different type of technologies are being already deployed. And we have the ability now to make use of them and to build on top of them additional layers to pull this information together. In the pandemic, during the pandemic, we have seen in Africa a couple of problems, and maybe, I don't know, Heather, if we will have that question-answer session, but if so, I would like to talk a little bit about what kind of patterns we have actually seen through the last couple of months, or unfortunately we have to say almost years now, during the pandemic, and how we actually cope with them. Okay, with this I would like to conclude my presentation and give the microphone back to Heather.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you being there in person. That was really fascinating to think about the multiple ways things need to come together, and having transportation and railways be kind of the advancement of the physical world where communication is coming together of the digital world. And this idea that although there is a patchwork of system physically, we can have the interoperability in a digital way and sort of overlay the intelligent systems on top. So something for us to strive for. Maybe 5G is too far out, but we can do some things in the interim to make sure that the digital interoperability is there. I am not sure, I think we're at time, so I'm looking for a cue from those of you in the room to let me know if we should do any Q&A or if I should just go ahead and wrap things up. I'm not hearing any cues. So
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It's all right. We have to switch the microphone on. We can let you have one question if you like.
Well, Mr. Frisk, I think, was very eager to talk about some of the reactions to the rest of the audience. And I'm not sure who is actually available virtually here to make comment, but I see that Ms. Masella is here, and maybe I will direct a question to you. And reaction to the most recent presentation that we just heard. I'm curious to get your reactions and sort of what you think about the possibility of this overlay of digital operability to make things come together, and how that relates to some of the protocols that you had mentioned and the need for more advanced digital literacy in the region. If you could just maybe react to that. And you need to unmute, please. Mm-hmm.
To achieve the ideals of the African Union, to have the world-class infrastructure that crisscrosses the continent, to increase intra-Africa trade through the CFTA, we have no choice but to ensure that from Egypt to down to South Africa, all railway equipment talks to each other. Even if South Africa or the southern region is still on Cape Gauge, but I am sure there are multiple of OEMs on this platform that are precisely working on those technologies that will respond to this environment. So uniformity for us is critical. Then we bring in I call them the goodies, the tools that is brought through the Luxembourg Protocol. What is beautiful about the protocol is that it does not demand money from my government, of which, as African countries, particularly in your COVID environment, most of the fiscal has gone into addressing the pandemic. So we didn't have money. Now we don't really don't have money. So we are at a point, we are transforming the industry. South Africa has structural reform. It's an environment that is good for business and is fertile to welcome investors into the country and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I guess I will wrap here, since again, I know that we're over time, but I think we did catch up on a bit of time, and hopefully those of you that are there in the room can continue the conversation. But thanks again for allowing me this opportunity to moderate the panel. I think we heard some really interesting perspectives, not only on advancements that are actually happening on the ground as railway systems are getting built throughout the continent, including a lot in East Africa and North Africa, as well as the Southern region, and thinking about the challenges both in the physical world, but also increasingly in bringing things together in a digital world. And although all of these physical advancements are happening separately, there's still the possibility to adopt protocols, rules, conventions that are already out there and serve as best practice and can help lay the ground for more interoperability at the digital side as well as at the physical side. So a lot of examples and ideas given here today that hopefully will connect the community better and lead to faster, better growth of railways across the continent. So let me leave you with that inspiration, and also to wish UIC a happy birthday, an anniversary, and thanks for having everybody here today to celebrate the advancement of railways. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Heather. And by the way, it's only the start of the celebrations for the UIC anniversary or centenary. There's more to come as we go through the coming 12 months. Ladies and gentlemen, Heather has wrapped it up really nicely, actually. So it really only leaves me the opportunity to say that despite all the difficulties that we've had during the day, it's been very enriching. We've had visions and paradigms. We've had European issues, Middle Eastern topics, and African aspirations. And I think all of those coupled together have actually provided us with a perspective of those parts of the world that we will develop further tomorrow when we visit Asia and the Americas. And so I'm hoping that you can all be with us tomorrow as we start again at 9:30 tomorrow morning. Leaves me just to thank the moderators and the speakers from today. I won't name them all, but the moderators, Anson Jack, you'll see him again tomorrow because he's popping up again for another session tomorrow. Some bloke called Simon Fletcher who moderated something or other, but I mean, he was rubbish. John Preston from the University of Southampton, of course, and Heather Thompson, who we've just heard. And there's a little reward for those of you who are in this room. I'm sorry for those of you who are out there in big internet land, but this doesn't apply to you. But there is a little reward for having stayed on so late this evening, because for those of you who, it's 6:15 here in Paris in the evening, and in France they say it's apéro o'clock. And so therefore outside, sponsored by Omewa, there is a drink and some nibbles, and you will be very welcome to partake of that, and hopefully see you all tomorrow at 9:30. Thank you.